Okay, so we're looking at this. You can see my screen, right? Oh, this is starting to be a nice one here. Yeah?
Yeah. I just don't, well, regarding that, like, I didn't really know how to, like, go to the next step, you know, like, push it further.
Okay.
I kind of, they're kind of in a wonky order just because I was sketching all throughout the week. So some of them are a little bit more warm-up-y and the other ones are more developed, quote unquote. But
I like this one.
thank you. Yeah, I just, like I said, I like when people are walking by at Downtown Disney, I just have a trouble like throwing it down really quickly.
Well, that's experience.
Okay.
I mean, that's experience. One thing though, the way a lot of, you know, kind of, let me see if I can find this. The relationship is sort of this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, taking that, I should be able to find something where you take, I like Michael Hampton's breakdowns. I think they're really good. Hang on. This is a really good book, by the way. I think we talked about it. It's called, I always have it sitting here, and then when I want to show you guys, it's called Figure Design and Inventions by Michael Hampton.
Okay.
And he has different covers on it, which always throws me when people do that, because then I go, is that like a different book, you know? But I have an old one, and I think the new one, I don't know, it seems like they change the cover every now and then. Anyway, so if you look at like here, how these things are relating to each other, you see that? And here, so he starts taking it where it gets a little more, and then let's bring up Bridgman here in a minute. How these things are relating to each other, that like these kind of things right here, and this is why I like these kind of things. It really, when I saw Bern Hogarth's breakdowns, like sort of like this, it just, something went off in my head. It just got me to see things and went, oh, I see how he's seeing that. And it was a way that I hadn't seen it before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the one in particular I'm thinking of is that foot breakdown that Bern Hogarth did in one of his books. Okay. And I remember looking at that going, man, I wish he did the whole book like this. Just broke the whole figure down like this. And that's kind of what this guy did. Right. So even this like landmark, we all know that triangular shaped landmark, right? But when you sort of define it, it's another thing. Now we've talked about clothing and things like that. And when people are clothed, we're using the clothing really is our landmarking. You know, there's that radiating fold here. We know that the elbow's here, you know, and we kind of know, you know, the shoulder. We know where these kind of landmark and anatomical landmarks are in relation to the clothing, but we're really using the clothing as our landmarking basis, right?
Right.
So what I like about this is if you're doing figure modeling or drawing, this gives you sort of the same thing, but anatomically. So it gives you some landmarks and it helps me sort of plug everything together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I always say is it's good to have this kind of book, and then you can see the arms are just cylinders. You see that? Right. So it's sort of a, you know, a real serious breakdown of kind of the same thing we've been talking about.
Right.
But let's see if we can find, and then it's starting, you know, like on this one, that same idea now, he's starting to build onto it and it gets more anatomical. Like I think even things like this, the way this works right here, that little dip and then bulge right there. I like seeing those things as you go, oh yeah, that's right. That's how that works. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's where I have been like stuck, because it's like I'm either drawing like Lego pieces or trying to draw too fast and nothing works.
Yeah. So okay. So what I'm guessing is, because we're not talking about pure figure here, I'm using figure as this point. But what I'm guessing is there's probably, and let's look at one more thing. Now here's the same idea, but just much more sort of organic. Does that make sense? And what I love about Bridgman, and the reason I'm talking about him right now, is exactly what you said. One of the things that I saw with, like, this is very good. All this stuff, what we just talked about, is really good to sort of landmark it, sort of understand how the shapes work and how they start to connect. But to me, Bridgman, even here, he just solidly connects like the upper torso and the hip. You know what I mean? And they're sort of, they always look sculptural, and they always look like they just lock together. Does that make sense? Like here, look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, that, even here, he hasn't even hardly done anything, and it already is starting to sort of flow and lock together, right?
Right.
This is the guy that I heard used to, so he was operating back in the 40s or something. Man, he was brutal, I heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I read this great story where he'd come in smoking a cigar. He was half crocked, and he'd do the critiques, and he was just brutal in the critiques, and he was half drunk, you know. And I'm guessing when they said half drunk in the 40s, that means pretty drunk in 1921. There was something about that. I don't know about that era. Anyway, look how, and he's giving you a lot of these kind of, exactly what I'm talking about is the way these things are relating to each other, the way this arm is connected to this, and he's doing it even here where he's not doing a lot of information, but all this stuff just super connects.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And okay, so what's probably happening, by the way, you can get Bridgman's complete book. It's called The Complete Life Drawing or something like that. It's a classic book. I always say get the Hampton book and get the Bridgman book, because then you got the very organic, putting these things into practice of organic life drawing and organic, people. And then to me, the Hampton book is much more a more mechanical, systemic way to look at all the muscles and how they interrelate in very simple shape-related language, right?
Right.
Which I think is really valuable, okay? Because if you're only looking at this, and these are great, okay? But if you're only looking at this,
yeah,
and it's great, but you gotta, like, even having it, like, the reason I have this here is I borrowed it from Jim, is every now and then I go back down the anatomical rabbit hole and I have to kind of re-study all this stuff, right?
Right.
It's great to be able to see how the muscles actually really work in there, like all these back here. But it's like it helps to look at things that are broken down systemically and look at things from sort of different, look at some Bridgman, look at some Michael Hampton, just look at some great, beautiful life drawings, and kind of rethink how all this is, right? I was looking at I think it was Ray Booth does or something. I was looking at some of his drawings, and he has some drawings of models sort of in interesting poses, and he's breaking down the muscles and what they're doing during that pose. And it really opens your brain up. You know what I mean? Now with clothed models, and what's this from? Is this from a book?
Yeah, I was just kind of studying like planes of the face, and I was like, well, this kind of works along the same lines of
it absolutely does. But the way it's working here. When we talk about, and I'm usually breaking it down in a little more simple way. And we talk about, here's the bottom of the nose, and then this brow line. I always talk about how that kind of goes into this eye socket. That's the sort of the same thing as when they break down the shape of the head, and you have this plane doing that. You probably saw that when you were doing this, correct? And then the nose is sort of built as a triangular shape inside of that, and so forth and so forth. So this same idea, that's the brow line. That's the same idea as what I'm always saying about how it goes into the socket, right?
Yeah.
And then they usually shave this off. That's where your temple is, and so on and so forth. And then, orbital, all this stuff down here. So, you know, and then, you know, with guys, usually this brow line is a little more pronounced, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why I'm always obsessed with that. If I see somebody with a really heavy brow line, I always want to draw them. I don't know why. You know, and so on and so forth, right? So all that's great stuff, right? But the reason I'm sort of approaching it in this way is A, I don't want to turn this class into an anatomy class, right? And B, I want to relate this stuff to how you put it into the real world. You know, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole of that anatomical stuff, take Jim's class. He has a class that just breaks down all the anatomy, right?
Right.
Which I think is a good thing to do.
Yeah, this is where I'm like sort of having trouble with this class or this assignment necessarily. It's like stylizing with not a lot of foundational, like, you know, and so that's, I'm like, well, I know how to, like, you know, draw the Powerpuff Girls because that's not hard, but, you know, like, and that's super stylized, but then like having to, we want that like marriage of the two kind of a thing.
That's exactly it. And one of the things, I don't expect everybody to nail it the first time, but what I'm hoping is what you just said is everything I teach for the most part is foundational, right?
Right.
So I get a lot of people who are quote unquote more advanced. And then if they get into here or whatever, it sort of is a good, I probably said this before, it's sort of a good calibration point where you're going, a lot of them do say exactly what you just said. And they go, I don't know. I don't have enough foundation in this stuff to start doing this other stuff. Does that make sense? And that's my point. And it's like, that's fine. Go get it. You know, that's what we're trying to talk about in here. And that's that point you just made about, well, Powerpuff Girls is easy because it's such simple shapes or whatever. I'd argue it's not, but I get what you're saying. But the person, it's not about that. Somebody already figured that out. That's why it's easy. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
It's not easy to figure out or to design it yourself. You know, I mean, that design of that show was pretty genius.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean more along the lines of like fan arty crap. Like I can mimic a drawing of, I don't know, like The Little Mermaid, and you know what I mean? Like it's fine because I can look at it and translate it. But
now, here's the thing with that though. That's another interesting thing. Because I see that, and by the way, your days of fan art are over, correct?
Yes. Oh, well, I'm trying to get out of that. With this class, I'm trying to like build more, like I said, like foundational stuff to where like I can produce that on my own.
Yes, that's where you want to be. And by the way, I don't know where the satisfaction in fan art is. I don't get it. And then the other problem I have with it is people always go, well, I can draw these, you know, sort of what you were just saying a little bit. Then I go, okay, how are you defining that you're drawing these? Because like, you know, most of the stuff I see online, I'm like, this stuff's terrible.
Right.
If you think if any of those people on there thinks they're going to go to Disney and get a job as a character artist, they're out of their mind.
Right.
The drawings are super flat. They're super amateurish looking. They're way off model. I mean, they're crazy off model. And there's a certain, if you look at those drawings in the 2D era, I was just looking at some yesterday. Maybe I'll pull them up. It was just a TV commercial, but a model sheet for a TV commercial. They would break down these, you know, if you look at I mean any of them really, but the princesses are a really good example of, those are really complex designs, right? And they're very simplified so they can be animatable, right? But when you look at those drawings, and it's really, they don't have a lot that they can use in there. They're not throwing all the shading in there. They're not, you know, they don't have it. They're pretty naked there, you know, when they just draw them, and they're just rock solid. Does that make sense? From a structure perspective?
Right.
And it's because the design is so good. It's because their draftsmanship is so good.
Right.
And I was just thinking about this last night for some reason. Whenever I had to draw licensed characters like Disney characters or whatever, I hated it. Okay. And that's why I hardly ever did it. And I only did it, I think I've said this, and I only did it when I had to step in and help out. I go, okay, we don't have an animator. All right, whatever, I'll do it. And those things are so deceptively, because people always go, well, they're designed to be simple. And it's like, yeah, they're simple, but they're not simple to draw.
Yeah.
and getting them right and getting them on model. I remember the first time I had to do that. It's not my thing. And I had no training in it or whatever. Usually if you go in as a character artist, I think they put you through training, because it's not just that you have good draftsmanship. It's that that's sort of its own category, in my opinion, right?
Like replicating?
No, like character art, getting things on model.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, and you're looking at the model sheet, and then and what other things people don't understand is that then, especially with something like Mickey or any of those kind of characters, there's the whole, you know, they're applying, there's a logic, there's a world internal logic to how Mickey moves, or any of those characters move, right? And that goes back to the whatever it is, the 12 basic principles of animation, or 10 or whatever it is. And one of those principles is squash and stretch. So when you're gonna, it's not just getting Mickey on model, because when you are doing that kind of work, like character art, and character art is different than character designer. Character artist is different than a character designer, correct?
Yeah.
Character artist is just drawing the characters for various reasons. In my case, I might need it for product. They might need it for advertising. They might need it for, I mean, who knows? There's a million things they need it for. And if I go to somebody and I say, hey, I want Mickey playing basketball or something, they don't just, so now you've got another problem. So now it's, because nobody's handing you a model sheet and go copy this Mickey. That's just your foundation work, how it works, right? What the shape breakdowns are, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll have little notes in there that tell you little things about the character you might not have thought of, right? And then they'll have, sometimes also have some information. Hey, when this character moves like this, you know, the arm gets a little elongated, you know. And so when you're reposing them, now you've got to apply that principle of squash and stretch and things like that to it, right? Which is, that's a trick unto itself. And that's why whenever we had stuff like that, I go hire an animator. That's what they do. You know what I mean? I'd hire an animator. And a lot of the character people that are, because Disney has a million character artists over there, okay? Just generating so much product. And their character artist is not a character designer, okay?
Right.
It's a different thing. And some people love doing it. And what's also weird on the other side of it, so when I would tell people there, I go, man, I can't stand drawing those characters. And they go, well, you can draw your ass off. Why is that a big deal? And I go, it's a different thing. It's just a different thing. And I'm not really into it. I don't really want to do that. We have character artists for that. But on the other end of that, I would have always thought, wow, the people who do that character art stuff, they're probably just monster, you know, drafts people. And like, I knew a guy there, and I knew this with a couple of them, but one in particular, I always would, if I saw somebody's sketchbook, I'd always go, hey man, can I look through your sketchbook? Because I love looking at sketchbooks. His sketches were not impressive. Right? Watch, let me show you this guy. Look, his character, he was a very good character artist, but he probably came at it liking just to do that. That's his thing, you know?
Yeah. I kind of feel like that's where I'm at right now. Like, I feel like I could do solid character work, like, because like the stuff that I can draw, like is like I can replicate those characters pretty easily, but then ask me to design, you know, a different pose or something, and then I'm like completely in the dark.
Well, then you're
that's
screwed.
where I'm like stressed. Huh?
You're screwed then. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the skill. And I'm not saying you're screwed, you know, that you're screwed. I'm just saying that's what's good is that you're identifying it and you need to correct it.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Because like I look at all these, like I'm currently looking up like, you know, like character model sheets and like Glenn Keane work and all this stuff. And I see what you're talking about, that like the motion of them, it's not, like you said, they're deceptively simple, but they're actually extremely complex. And
yeah,
that's where I'm like, okay, I'm getting lost in translation here.
Yes, I'm okay. But I'd argue one of the main, I mean, what your strength now is that that light's gone on.
Okay.
That's the whole thing. Okay. Because I talk to a lot of students who don't get that. You know, they're looking at their work very, not with a very discerning eye, you know, and it's hard to look at your own work and go, what's working, what's not working, what's, you know, what am I good at, what do I need to improve on? And then, you know, when you start thinking that way, you start locking into that thinking and you start getting it. You start going, oh, I need to work on blah, blah, blah. sometimes for me, it's just like I'll go, man, you're drawing a lot of 3/4 head views, because I just tend to do that. And then I go, no, draw the whole body. Like, get back in now and start drawing the whole figure. Stop focusing on this one thing, change it, you know, just to make sure that I'm doing that all the time. Because if I don't do that, it's sort of my and it's like, it's one of the reasons I bought this pen. Okay. I do believe that I needed to invest in that. But one of the reasons I did it is because I've been out of circulation, not as much as everybody else talks about, but I just haven't, in a lot of cases, been able to find some place where people are that I can draw them, right?
Yeah.
And I'm totally addicted to, and I find places, but I'm totally addicted to drawing from life. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's done a couple of things. It's forced me to go back and play around with reference again, which is really fun. You know, I'm always drawing on my head anyway. And then anyway, it's kind of forced me down this other avenue, which has actually been really good. But now I'm going back out in the world because people are back out and I'm starting to draw again. I'm going, holy shit, this is not right at my fingertips like it usually is. You know what I mean? I'm actually having to think a little bit about it, which normally that's not how it works for me, right? And I don't like thinking about it, and I don't like that. So then I go, I'm going to switch up. I love drawing with pen, or I go back and forth all the time. But I'd say my main tool now is probably pencil, but I do love pen, right? So then, and I love fountain pen. So then I start drawing with my fountain pen again, and I go, I'm going to go out, and I'm drawing pretty straight drawings just to get recalibrated. Does that make sense? So then I go, you know what? This stupid pandemic's almost over. This hideous political era is at least kind of over right now. I'm going to go buy myself something cool, and if I get a really nice pen with a really nice nib, I'm just going to sit here and get back into that sort of just observational drawing and just get my chops back up. Does that make sense? And that's going to inspire me to do it because it's a really, really nice drawing tool, right? It's like luxurious, right?
Right.
Like, it's the equivalent of somebody going to a spa for the weekend for me. That's the same. That's what that is.
Right.
So this is, so anyway, I'm very conscious that it's like, I got to get my fluidity back. I got to get my unconscious drawing back. Right. And with painting for that matter. So I'm trying to find, so here's some of his character work, right? Which is fine. Here, which is fine. And then, some more finished stuff.
Oh, that's him. Okay. I know exactly. I've seen this stuff.
So, and then you go to his drawings, his sketchbook. These aren't good at all. Look at this drawing right here. There's a bunch of you in here that are better than this. Right?
Right.
And, there's a bunch of you in here and they're better than this. This guy's been working for Disney. Right? And the reason I point, and now, by the way, that's not to lower the bar. It's to make sure that you guys are understanding that this is doable. Like, you want to have a career doing this stuff, you got some talent and you work your ass off. It's doable.
Right.
But it's, it's the working your ass off part that a lot of people fall apart on. And then here's another one. Let's see if I can find him. And who's on the other end of the spectrum. See, fountain pen right here. Right?
Yeah, I saw you posted that, and that's not that I was trying to mimic you, but I was like, okay, like using that as like sort of like the look of what I was trying to go for. But then when I was trying to lay it down, I was like, nope, it's not coming out.
By the way, I look at things all the time to get me fired up to draw or paint. And that's probably kind of what you're talking about. And it's not that I'm going, ooh, I want to draw like that. I just go, ooh, that gets me all fired up to paint. I love that kind of drawing, or gets me fired up to draw. I love that kind of drawing. Does that make sense? There's really nothing to do with
but this is what I wanted to ask you about, because there are guys like this who that's like all he does, like. Yes. And I'm like, is that,
he was an animator.
Right in the 90s, right?
Probably.
And I'm like, now this is just what he does, and you can do that. And
he what?
I'd argue that my stuff isn't as like polished and like nicely sketched out as his, but it's not the worst stuff either.
You want to
And
be
I
the
can,
best stuff.
right,
That's
right.
the answer. Now, you know, Scott was interesting too, by the way. Like when we were all probably going to get canned from Disney, nobody knew who, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And Scott was, he was in the home department, home division, whatever you want to call it.
mm-hmm.
You know, their area was over here and our area was over here. We were toys, Hardlines toys, and they were home. But and Scott was the guy always did all the princess stuff because that's the trickiest character stuff to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Real nice guy and everything. And when all that was going on, he got really, you know, like anybody does, he got real paranoid about losing his job, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what I liked about him is we were talking about it for some reason, and he goes, "I don't care if they put me in a windowless trailer. I just want to have a job." And I always, that stuck with me because I remember telling him, I go, "Dude, you're like crazy talented, man. Don't think like that." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm,
But I do think that I did like his work ethic where it's like, no, I want to keep my damn job. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
He had a work ethic, you know, and he got promoted up right after that, like to, I think, principal design, which I think is great. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because he's a really good ambassador for the, you know, the Disney stores or Disney, whatever. Because
Yeah,
he's a really nice guy. He's a really interesting guy.
yeah,
He gets into really interesting stuff. Like he's into
yeah,
like trapeze stuff and all this stuff.
yeah.
You know, he's all, in all his fitness. He's just a good, friendly, incredibly talented ambassador, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But now here's the other thing with this, the advantage he has over you or anybody who doesn't. He probably went to Cal Arts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he went through the character animation program there. And if you notice his drawing, like if you take any of these drawings out of context, I'll
Mm-hmm.
immediately go, that's an animator, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because of the construction techniques that he's using that animators use, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, so in relation to character artwork, he's, you know, he knows how to throw those things down on model. He knows how to move them around because that's what he's trained in specifically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now he also happens to be a really good drafts person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, even the stuff that's his personal work looks like animation stuff,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is fine. I mean, that's what he does. It's fine. Personally, that was something I never wanted to have happen. I didn't want to go, I wanted to have a well-rounded skill set. I wanted to be able to jump in and do very hard surface stuff and very entertainment-y looking things or very industrial design looking thing or very illustrative looking things or traditional oil painting. I wanted to be able to go that gamut. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't want my work to go, I didn't want anybody to look at my work and go, oh, that dude's an industrial designer. I didn't want
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? But I also want to have all these other skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, when I say that, I just mean as long as I'm putting people up there for me as a target, it makes me constantly up my game all the time. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which just benefits me. It just benefits my skill set. So I'm always trying to find ways to push myself up the mountain, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'd argue I'm more focused on that. I'm never not focused on that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm almost never living in the moment. I'm always trying to get somewhere. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And the reason I think that's important is that I think if you start a career, I think it's really important that you always remember, if you're lucky enough to, you know, start having a career and everything, I think it's really important, especially as you get further into it, to always remember that place in your brain why you did it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Don't get
yeah,
jaded. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And the way you don't get jaded, I mean, you can get jaded about the business side, whatever. I get that, but like never lose sight of like, oh, I'm an artist. I did this. Like go back to wherever you're in your brain it is, your 12-year-old brain where you're sitting there, copying Andrew Loomis because you just love this shit so much. Like always go back to that spot. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
always go back and, you know, for me, I can just go, I've said this before, but one of the places for me to recharge my batteries when I was working was the bottom of the stairs at Fullerton College, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it used to smell like oil paint. And that just boom, that reminded me of the first day I walked in there and just went, to me, that was like a treasure trove of knowledge all of a sudden. Like I'd never stepped into that environment. I'd never got any training. And now all of a sudden I was making that decision to do it. And it really, I just realized how much I loved all of it. I love the smell of oil paint. I love just all of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then, you know, south entrance of Art Center, same thing, smells like Chavant clay. Oh my God, the first time I saw industrial design and all that, and how that all worked, and shavings all over the floor, and it smells like Chavant clay, and blah, blah, blah. You know, all the sketches all over the wall, and it's all just mind blowing, you know. And I was like, you know, those things reset my batteries, because those always take me back to like, oh, that's why you started doing this. Because of that little kid that loved drawing so much and was fascinated by people who had careers in this. I always go back to that, right? When I'm really pissed off about business stuff, I don't really have that here anymore, which is really nice. I don't really have too much of that anymore. The bad part of it. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to find some, and those are also like, it sounds like it was gesture drawings or something. See, I mean, those aren't going to be perfect all the time. And they're pretty damn bitchin', so. You know, even this, you know, you can tell that's an animator, right? So, and then here, this is like a lot looser, but I still know it's an animator. But these are great. Really fun. Anyway, so if you're comparing yourself to this in relation to sort of character art, he's an animator.
Right.
So, you know, and not that you can't, I mean, a lot of character artists aren't animators, but a lot of them are. The one who I'm trying to get in here to teach, she's a, I don't think she's ever an animator, but she's a character artist and she's badass. She worked on Powerpuff Girls and stuff, right? She just worked on Cuphead. Now I think she's back over at Disney again. I got to talk to her. These are nice. What are these from?
Those I go to the there's like an Anaheim like a street market on Thursdays.
That's a great spot.
Yeah, I just go after work. It's really great because a lot of food vendors and stuff are happening. And I saw this mom, she was like a younger mom. She was kind of cool. She had a cool like draping shirt from one side to the other. She just really liked her kid. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I kind of, these aren't the first one. I don't remember which page it was on that was the first one. Maybe it might be 2. Yeah, she's right there in the corner.
So wait a minute. I'd have to go back and look. Have your drawings jumped quite a bit, like in relation to sort of the solidity of them?
I mean, kind of, yeah.
I mean, it looks to me like they have, because here you're starting to hit a little more of that. It's stylized, but it feels kind of solid, right?
Yeah, and those ones, the ones that are popping off the page a little bit more are the ones that I spend a little bit more time on. I went in with like a darker pen to sort of make them different. So some look like, oh, these are just the rough working out, and then these are the ones that I like that are going to stick out a little bit.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
So yeah, I just really liked her, but I was like, I don't really know how to push her past like what's right in front of me, kind of a thing.
Well, the first thing I grab onto. Okay, so the first thing I grab onto is like once I start drawing them, then my brain hopefully starts to see whatever the shape is. Does that make sense? So, you know, if it's I mean, it could be a guy or a girl actually in relation to this, but hang on. All right, so what would you say if you looked at these, because I wasn't there, would be the characteristic of her, let's say, just her overall face shape?
She was pretty thin, and she was Asian.
Sorry, go ahead.
She was thin, she was Asian, she was really pretty. She was young, maybe no older than like 25, 26. What I really liked about like her look was the side ponytail with like the braid, and it was kind of
Oh, yeah.
messy all over the place, and then the asymmetrical like the top, and she was skinny, and she had this big fluffy top on, and so like there was a lot of ruffles and stuff happening
So
with the baby and all this stuff.
so okay, you liked her fashion sense too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is absolutely a factor, right? But I might come in here and just start to try and go, you know, if this is her face shape, you know, maybe that's it. But I might also go, well, you know, is she real cheekbony? Can I pull some of that in there? You know, I'm trying to make it an interesting shape. You know, is she just got a very button nosy kind of thing?
Right.
You know, but you know, and a lot of it, by the way, yeah, I'm going to use what's there, but I'm also just going to jump off the cliff. Give her a little more of an upper lip, see? And then, you know, you might want to really push this whole thing a little harder and really get this braid thing in here and really make a statement with it, right? However you want to do that. And this here. You know, and then my brain starts to go, I'd put some probably hair there. I'd probably soften this a little. And I might bring the chin. Now, this all depends on how far you want to go away from her look, right?
Yeah.
But I might want to soften her chin up. Oops. And then start figuring out, you know, how I'm going to handle these hair shapes. She's had light hair or dark hair.
She had dark hair. And what I liked about
it's completely different. It's completely different how I'll handle dark hair to light hair. If it's going to be light hair, I might do it more like you're doing here, where I'm just seeing the don't get uniform. See how these are uniform? 4 lines for the same line, right? Like this one's nice. It overlaps a little bit. You know, and this can bunch down into here, but I'd break up those shapes a little bit. You know, and then here she's getting a little more Pocahontas-y.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'd make sure that this shoulder, I'm really reading that that's tilted. You know, you got them, and you know, and then I might just start going off the cliff on what I want her to look like. Now, if I keep doing that, you know, and then I'm going to go somewhere else and try probably a few things. So, and if I'm going for the essence of who I think she is, and I'm sort of turning her into a character, that's kind of a fun thing too, because then I have to sort of keep it in the ballpark of, you know, what she looks like, right?
Right.
Hang on a sec. Is the animator's sister that he based Jasmine on.
Right.
And you can see it a little bit in there. Not so much in this pose, but if she was more in this thing, you can see it a little bit. You know what I mean? But I mean, man, there's a big leap there between the two things, right?
Right.
Or here's another one that I love, actually. So I think the guy he's based on is another animator. And I, you know, just knowing from being in the environment where people are doing this all the time, you're drawing each other all the time, bunch of artists, you know, goofing on each other and stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if when they started to design that, he had something that he had already drawn of that guy and probably went, holy shit, he'd be perfect. You know what I mean? There was probably somewhere, you know, at least for me, I always lock in on somebody where I'm working that that's my person. I love drawing because they're goofy or something, or they're funny, or I just like the shape language, but usually it's a combination of shape language. They're kind of funny, they're kind of dorky or whatever. You know what I mean? Or I just like them.
Yeah.
But you know, that's not that far away from each other.
Right.
I mean, look at him here. He's Russell.
Yeah. I definitely see what you're talking about. like in real life when I'm out there and I'm like, oh, there's something about that specific person. Again, it's just the lost in translation thing where I'm like,
Yeah,
how do I lay that down? How do I lay that down, you know? And then they walk away and I'm like, shoot.
You know what's interesting is after a while you don't think about it. You just kind of go, for whatever reason you think it's interesting, and then you just start interpreting sort of subconsciously after you. That's what technique's for, by the way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Technique is for that. And I think we talked about this too, but don't ever get in that stupid argument where people go, oh, I don't want to go to college, man, so screw my style. Say, shut up, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You actually, or I don't want to get all technique-y. It's like, don't worry, you won't. Because you draw badly, because usually people who make those excuses draw badly.
Mm-hmm.
You learn technique to forget about technique. You learn technique so that it becomes just like we're talking, where you're not thinking about everything you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're just throwing it down. It becomes your language. It's very second nature. And then these sort of weird things with, character, stylization, all that kind of thing, they sort of start happening naturally, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to hone in on here is some sort of shape language and sort of defining it a little bit. So then I can play with it. And you said the Lego block thing. Yeah, I'm sort of creating my own Lego blocks as I'm building my Lego model.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But I've got to sort of define, like, okay, how am I handling this? What is the essence of this thing from a shape language? It's like, have you ever seen a really great caricature of somebody and there's some sort of weird epiphany with it where you're like, oh my God, that is like that they captured that person more than a photograph would.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they honed in on some weird thing that you're like, man, that's just such a weird, or it's just the shape language. You're like, man, I didn't see that. Like, it's fun to go and find people that I look at and I go, God, what would be the handles on that person? I don't really see any handles. And then sometimes I'll just type in like caricature of whoever it is, and then I'll find somebody who might have done a cool drawing of them. And I go, oh man, I didn't even see that. And it's, again, it kind of recalibrates my brain. I go, I should have saw that. Like, that person really honed in on some interesting shape language in there and pushed it on somebody who's not that interesting looking to me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had that happen at work where you have to do, I had to do some stuff with celebrity stuff, likeness, and stylize it. And one of them was easy. And then the other one I just struggled with the whole day. I'm like, I can't get a handle on this person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't do that. You gotta come up with something, man. When you're in a professional environment, it's like, hey, I gotta have this. Where is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense how we're breaking that down?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of speak to what what you were thinking about?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I just need to do more.
So what you got to do here is like sort of land on a style language, because this face shape is totally different from this one. And I know you're exploring, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one feels a little more of a cousin to this one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this one feels a little bit of a cousin to this one. This one, now I'm starting to lose a little of that angularity.
Okay.
So what I'm looking at here, and she's young, she's thin. I'm guessing she's a little more angular. When you're young and thin, you tend to be a little more angular. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So you tend to see like cheekbones and, all that kind of stuff, right? And then the same thing with the body language, you got, is it going to be sort of a very angular approach, upper body, lower body, with this sort of roughly idea? Or is it going to be more one sort of continuous line creating the upper and lower parts? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this one obviously is a much softer approach, and this is a little more angular, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're, this is an angular approach to the hip, and this is a soft approach to the hip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's two just right off the bat that I can start to go, do I like her? This sort of thing to me, this sort of and it's just what's happening with this sort of angular approach is making her a little more a little more presence, authority, hero-ish, whatever you want to call it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, if I carry that into the body, it depends on who I'm thinking she is. If I thought she's a, hey, she's a, she's in the military, I might go with that little more angular approach and a little more, you know, not as soft. Like the softer thing is going to convey something else, right? And I'm making up those two things. I'm not saying that it's always that always means that, because I hear this all the time coming out of character design, where I see character designs and everything's real pointy, right? Which is off-putting. Okay, like if you put too many sharp points on things, it doesn't look good usually. Okay,
Right. All right.
and then I go, you got a lot of points on here, and they go, oh, that's because it's a villain. The villain should always be like real pointy and sharp. I go, what? Like you're buying this formula bullshit? Like,
yeah,
that's not what people are looking for. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then my answer to that is, by the way,
I feel like I know your answer.
What is it?
Ursula?
Yep.
Circles, all circles.
Very soft forms.
Yeah, Guy Fieri, yeah.
Now she's got some points here, but they're kept to a minimum. Even here, right? And there's something about this design that was really interesting to me, because she's very much a certain type, right? Yeah. And it might be, she might look like the actress who did her voice, I can't remember, but she looks very much like an old character actress. There's an old character actress that looks like her. And she also reminds me, and this is probably a weird reference point, she reminded me of like an old barfly. Does that make sense?
What's a barfly?
People hang around bars.
Oh, okay.
Like dingy, crappy dive bar, not hip dive bars, dive bars.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, she was based off a drag queen.
Yeah.
Which makes 100% sense.
That totally makes sense too.
Based off of drag queen name like Divine or something.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, you've seen Divine, right? Yeah, that actually totally makes sense.
Yeah, that's
right there.
100%.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Divine was a trip, man.
It's like that. I see it's things like this where it's like you see these big, broad, very character-esque like things in real life, and again, it's that like, how do I do this? How do I do this? But I think it's just with time and with more doing it.
Well, it's doing exactly what okay, so now Divine's got big giant handles, right? And if you now looking at that, now I don't know how I never saw that connection, because it's pretty obvious, but you know, when you jump to where'd it go? Let's get rid of that. Am I spelling that right? When you go to here, it ain't that big a leap to there.
Yeah.
I mean, you took the eye language completely, right? Took the hair language. Look at this one. I don't think that's Divine though. I mean, the whole thing's right there, but that's very big handles.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But and then the voice of it to me also reminded me of a barfly, a little bit smoky, a little rough. You know what I mean? Because you used to go, and I'm sure you still. I don't see as many bars anymore as I used to. Just like bars, not cool places, bars, right?
Yeah.
And you walk by these bars, they usually have a curtain, if the door was even open, and you know, and there'd always be right in the middle of the day. There'd be at least 5 people sitting in there, usually older, just get drunk, right? And they do it every day. They just get hammered every day. There's a woman up here that does it. It's kind of sad. She's older, and she has this routine. I don't know if she's still doing it, but she has this routine where she hits like, I don't know, Arby's up here, which is kind of a danky place. And then she has a couple of cocktails. Then she drives over to some other place and has a couple of cocktails. She just does that every day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She just doesn't have anything to do, which I never understand, not having something to do. But anyway, so this is a good example of big handles, pulling it in. And then what you're doing is much more subtle. You got to find it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same approach, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at the one from, like I'd argue that the guy who used his sister as reference, there's other factors there. He loves his sister, you know, all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of that gets pulled in an esoteric way. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then divine is just a big fun thing to pull from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Russell, now that's also, he kind of handed them the design. I mean, it's weird because they base that design on him as an adult, but man, did they translate him right into that kid.
Right.
You know, they just made him, and then look at what they focused on. Look. Okay, so what did they focus on here?
His cheeks.
Yes, for sure. What else?
And his ears. And his eyes. Well, kind of his eyes, but also his eyebrows a little bit, I think.
Okay, one thing is that kids tend to be, okay, so another thing, if you notice, they pushed all his features closer together into the middle of his face.
Okay.
Now, what does that do?
Does that make you younger? Does that like?
Well, it's a kid thing partly, you know, but it's also, it really emphasizes the girth and the cheeks. Because
Okay.
now you're pushing all the features into here, which makes all this broader and bigger, right? I'd argue, and this is another esoteric thing, there's something about his personality that they capture, and I don't know the guy's personality, just from the pictures of him, there's something very open about him. He looks like a nice guy. He looks like an open guy to the world. He doesn't look shut off. He doesn't look sullen. He doesn't, you know, he looks like a fun guy, right? There's something about his eyebrows I think they got. And I haven't seen him talk, but this is and you know, the mouth is much smaller, but all those, and then they gave him sort of a button kid nose, right? You know, so I'd say, you know, the main thing they really focused on is that cheekiness, right? And then they took if you look at it, let's see if we can find the whole Russell design.
That's the one I'm looking at right now.
Okay, so if you look at now because this sort of speaks back to kind of what we were talking about with that girl with the two approaches to the body type. Look how they sort of carried this idea, this sort of idea. They came up with the head shape. They sort of carried the whole idea into this sort of an idea. Does that make sense? So this sort of, they gave it a little dip here. I don't know if it ended up having one though, but this whole shape right here is just sort of this kind of pear shape, right? And then, you know, what's breaking it up? This, right? Big ears. Now the big ears thing too is also a kid thing. I almost always do that with kids. But, you know, but what I'm saying is, and then very small legs, right?
Yeah.
Which emphasize this again, right? So now you're getting contrast, right? You're getting these small legs in contrast to this big, you know, big statement around the body about the torso and the face, right? So you got to think about contrast in all these things too. Like if you go, well, you know, she's very elongated, she's very whatever. Well, I need, you know, she's very soft, she's very curvy, whatever it is. Then I go, well, where can I get a straight in there? Where can I get a contrasting shape, right? Because I don't want to just make the whole thing one statement, right? But he's a good example of, you know, how they translated it.
Right.
And so was the divine one. And so was, you know, all of them. There's some good things going on here though. Like this is a good one.
Hmm.
And she's walking. I like that. I got to go back and look at your other stuff. It feels like there's like a level of like sort of stylized anatomy that's starting to happen here.
It's me not thinking. It's me going, stop stressing and just draw.
Yes. Because look, you're again, I've said this before. If I look at a sketchbook at the end of this term and I can tell if somebody half-assed it, right?
Hmm.
Or I can tell like, wow, this person is really going for it. And yeah, you're gonna have a lot of sloppy bad pages. So what? That's the point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you don't make those sloppy bad pages, you are not going to get better.
Yeah. Okay.
And that, man, as simple as that is, there's some really good things going on here. This is interesting. This is interesting. This is really interesting. This is interesting. I love that. I love the way you did the hair and then it kind of fades out on top. There's some really good
You
stuff.
taught me that.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
And another thing I was thinking about this, I'm always thinking about this. The reason I make such a big fuss out of fundamentals, number one, you need it. And you're realizing that now, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it also, from a teaching perspective, if I teach from a fundamental point of view, and luckily the three of us that run this program all agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
If we're speaking from a fundamental point of view, it keeps my point of view personally sort of out of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not, if I'm teaching from a fundamental point of view, I'm not teaching you stylistically how I think you should do it, or stylistically I want everybody to draw like me or what, because there's a lot of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I keep the language to fundamental, it keeps my, because I don't want to change anybody's style or whatever. I just want to inform it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never liked it. I think we talked about this. I never liked it when teachers started shoving their stylistic, they were trying to turn me into a disciple. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Daniel said, unless it's anime.
Yeah. I had a teacher who actually, like, the Clayton brothers were a big deal when I was at Art Center, and they didn't do that, but they ended up, because there were these hip guys, they were pretty young, they were having these bitching careers and all that, they ended up with a bunch of disciples, and all of a sudden the whole illustration department sort of changed for this big group of people because they were all emulating the Clayton brothers, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think there's some really cool things happening in here. And then are these earlier?
Yeah. Those are, again, at the Anaheim shopping.
So these sort of feel like you've jumped off of this over to.
So yeah, that's like page 4.
This one?
Yeah, that one right there.
Well, this to this is night and day.
Oh, I mean, it's Thursday to Friday, but okay, yeah.
It can happen that fast if you're drawing a lot.
Okay.
Man, I'm telling you. How long? Okay, so like when you went to Downtown Disney to draw, how long did you draw for?
Maybe about an hour or so. We didn't have a lot of time.
That's fine. But you'll notice, like, try and give yourself, because I love doing this. I love like going, I don't have to do shit tomorrow. I'm just going to go paint, or I'm just going to go draw somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go somewhere that I love being. I'm going to go down to the farmer's market. I'm going to go whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have some food. I'm going to see interesting people and have my headphones. I'm just going to absorb all this shit. And I'm just going to draw all day. And you will, especially where you're at right now. Okay. If you go down there and you do that, and you're sitting there drawing for 4 hours or whatever, and having a good time, you will see your drawings jump in that 4 or 5 hours. Right. Now, the trick is you got to keep it going. Right. Because you can have a big epiphany and all of a sudden a big stylistic change. And it's weird how fast that can happen when you're working hard. But then you got to cement it into your skill set, because it's kind of weird. It's almost like when you have those big jumps like that, it's almost like when you have those dreams, you know, when you're a kid, or you still have them, where you're like an amazing piano player in this dream or something. You're like, oh man. And then you wake up and you go, oh, that sucks. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that, where all of a sudden it's like, bang, you're drawing like on a level that's completely different from one day to the next.
Yeah.
It feels like that. It feels like a dream, or all of a sudden it's like wham. And it's the same thing with careers, man. Like sometimes you get a phone call and all of a sudden you start working somewhere and you're like, I don't know how this happened. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing here? This is insane. Oh, this
Yeah.
is how it happens. You know, because you have this idea in your head of how all this happens, and it you know, you work your ass off, but it feels like it just all of a sudden happens, and it's just weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 I know what you mean.
But this, can you see the difference between this one here is starting to feel like the same way too, but to here,
Huh.
that's a huge leap.
I also I went with a friend and she was like not necessarily draw faster, but like stop lingering like so much.
Mhm.
Like
Good
like
advice.
huh?
Good advice.
Yeah, she was like, you know, from one drawing to the next, like just because you spent more time in it, does that one look 5 minutes better than the
No,
one that took you 30 seconds kind of a thing?
that's really good. That's a really good way of putting it.
So that's that those ones where it's like more of just like the headshot and blah blah blah, like is me sitting down by myself and going in, you know, and like taking the time, and maybe that's not what I need to do.
I want more of this right here.
Okay.
That's probably a quick one, right?
Yeah.
I love that little curve to the whole pose,
Mm-hmm.
that little lean or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is just nice and loose. That hair looks great. It feels like that hat sitting on the hair and sort of pushing it out a little bit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it's not over labored.
Yeah.
But not over labored here. This is great right here. I like this one.
Yeah, this one.
Is this an earlier page?
That's the first day. I went to my boyfriend's dad is a soccer coach.
Okay.
And so we went to a soccer game and I was not having a great day and I was trying to sketch. And I mean, you like these and that's great, but I was like, this page is shit. I was trying to sketch the cheerleaders. I was trying to sketch the coach. It was just.
I think this one right here is cool.
Okay.
But so here's what I'm seeing here. You're sort of exiting a little bit of this other stuff, wherever it went. This sort of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then you're in. Okay, so then you got here. And I like this one, but then that idea sort of pops back up in a more sophisticated way over here. Here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think you're solving your own problem here where you're talking about connecting these two portions of the body.
Mm-hmm,
I think you're solving your own problem there. Because that one feels connected. This feels really connected.
Huh,
this, I might have I'd have to see. I think it's fine. Where you're losing me here is probably something. See how this leg, see how both these legs are flattening out where they're on the same plane?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, give me, and again, this comes down to just a design idea. What can I pull? Is there, a little overlap there? Even doing that pulls that leg in front a little bit.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then, do I put a little bit of the indication of the seam on the pants here just to get a shape on there?
Yeah.
And is there any place I can get a little fold? I don't necessarily always have to put a fold. Maybe I put one there. I don't know. No, I don't want that. But that little line pulled that leg in front. This foot is probably also facing a little more this way, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I was feet.
Right? No, I think your feet are actually pretty good. It's just, you probably threw it down quick. I always want to get these feet pointed because she's facing that way.
Right.
So this foot here is probably going to be a little more, a little more foreshortened. And then what's the hand doing here?
I have no clue. She was a hodgepodge of people. So
oh, okay. That's good.
Like how you said, one girl walked by and I was like, oh, she has the big, fluffy sweater. I like that. And then she walked by really fast. I was like, dang it.
Yeah.
So then I saw a girl with super long pants and I was like, hey, well, I can, put that together.
That's like that. I told you guys about that cab driver I saw and I started to follow him because I want to see, if he stopped to get coffee or something. I'm like, oh, I still want to draw that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go, all right, that's getting a little weird. Okay. And all right. So then that idea on that first page, what page is this? 7. This idea starts to feel like it's getting fleshed out on this page. Because
Okay.
now you're putting that simplicity to work, but you're giving me enough where it feels structured.
Okay.
And I feel like that's where you're going. If you like or why do I always forget his name? Steve Thompson.
Steve Thompson. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you like him, you're sort of heading in that sort of very simplified structured direction.
Yes, that's exactly where.
Okay, good. Because that's where you're heading.
Okay. Okay.
But are you understanding the simplicity of the design feeling very
Yeah.
structured and how we're starting to do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think I need to, like I said, do more, and I need to understand like where to place the body, like draw like Legos for a little bit, like maybe to warm up
Yes.
kind of thing, and then start just not thinking and
You know,
going.
yeah. And also what starts to happen is the flow of one thing into another, I think is really important.
Mhm,
So I'm
mhm.
really thinking about like when I have something like this, you know, here's that line of action, obviously, right?
Mhm.
But I'm going, you know, maybe this, oops. This one, okay, damn it. There's this one, it sort of feels like this sitting on top of this, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So I'm always thinking about, you know, like how does this stuff connect? You know, this is going to probably come down over this a little bit. So now I'm carrying the upper torso idea down into the lower body. Does that make sense?
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
looking for things that flow into the other shapes to tie them together,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Mhm,
Which is very much a sort of a life drawing idea. Now this going straight, it probably went like that a little bit.
mhm, mhm.
There's probably a pull fold there and maybe there. And the reason the folds become important is because we're not looking at the anatomy, but the folds are telling me about the anatomy. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So if I pull forward and I get all this stuff happening, well, it's because there's a tension point out here and it's, you know, or here that's pulling everything towards that tension point. In this case,
Mhm.
cells
Okay.
hold or whatever, right?
Mhm,
That's important, right?
mhm,
It's
mhm.
telling the viewer the anatomy underneath the clothing, right? And again, I've seen these things where people really over complicate that whole idea. And it's like you can see this stuff. You don't have to sit around and draw everything anatomically and then clothe it. That's what I'm trying to avoid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now I
Yeah.
might do that if it was like you're doing a character design and then you're deep diving in and going, okay, I want to tear all this apart. Glenn Keane does that a lot with his characters where he really tears them apart from a shape perspective before he hands them off to all the rest of the animators, right?
Like Tarzan-ish.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's an interesting video of him when he's talking to I'll see if I can find it, where he's talking, I think, to his animators, I think, about Aladdin, right? And he's showing just the real simple breakdowns of Aladdin.
Yeah, I
This
know
one-
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And he goes, this one's this, and this one's this. And he's going through like his thought process. And then he gets to the last one. He goes, and this one's way too complicated to animate. And that's the one we're going to do.
Yeah. It's like this one's too big and bulky, and he's too big, he's not, and this one's too young, and that one's too hard, and that's the one we're doing. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And by the way, he based a lot of the athleticism and some of the characteristics on him on Tom Cruise.
Right. Right.
And there's some early, look at these. Well, I've landed on these, but these are kind of interesting. Look at these studies.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Really helpful. Look, here's your basic breakdown. Look at that triangle, really strong triangle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love them when they're rough like this. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's great. That doesn't just show pose, it shows personality. There's some early drawings. Maybe this is in. No, that's not them. There's some early drawings. I'll try and find them. There's some early drawings that Glenn Keane did at the beach of volleyball players when he first started working on Aladdin.
Okay.
And they're really rough. They're just Really cool drawings, just, people in action and, doing this and catching things.
Mhm.
And, he was already starting to think down that line of the athleticism of that character, right?
Yeah.
And, he did the same thing with Tarzan, right? But now, again, this little fold is accomplishing this little one right here. You see that? Let's say it's that. It's also subtly carrying this curve down here a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then would his arm be there? Oh, what was he playing? Soccer? Oh, soccer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Might make that ball a little bigger. That's probably a little too big, actually. Oh, so he was, and then I'm assuming this foot would, I don't know, I'd have to look at that. Like when they're doing that, is the foot at rest? It probably would be, right?
I think his foot was like flexed. It was like in motion, so he was like running into it and like pulling his foot up. So there was like a forward motion to it where the ball was coming to him and he was going to the ball.
And then I don't know, I might lift this foot up a little bit. They were kind of flat. See, this one's flat and then this one was flat, which feels weird. Does that make sense? So I want to think about that. And by the way, he might be facing down. I have no idea. But, and then I want to get a little bit of that sleeve wrapping around maybe, whatever this arm's doing. It still feels a little too rigid to me. I'd have to go there. I haven't drawn. It's a good idea to draw soccer players. I haven't tried that. But, when you start doing these things, all the stuff you're doing out here is also going to connect it up here. But some of it's just pulling things into the next shape. Does that make sense? It's not really any different when they're talking about life drawing and, and you're doing this, whatever, torso. And they're going draw through that form, come in here and draw through all these forms. It's the same thing here. It just sort of starts to connect everything, right?
Right.
Because if you do what we tend to do when we first start, where you go, okay, I'm drawing the figure and you're sort of drawing this outline, all this stuff just disconnects. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of the reason we're drawing through. So even when you're drawing somebody, I look for those rhythms, man. I look for where I can pull a line down into another form, and that helps to lock all those forms together, right? Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Are we answering the problem?
Yeah. I just need to do more. And
well, that by the way, that you're going to be telling yourself that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, look at right now. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, man, I got to get my non-thinking brain going again.
Yeah.
All right, who else? Man, you really love cars, huh?
I do.
That's cool.
So the first, second, and 8th page was me trying to look at people and come up with a character.
These are great.
Yeah, I saw this dude and he had like this buzz cut and I thought, oh, he looks like he could totally be like a military dude.
Sure.
So I started sketching this military dude and then later I passed him and he was wearing scrubs and I'm like, nurse vet.
Yeah. I like that.
Ideas.
They're nice drawings, man. Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice drawings. Really nice drawing here. Tricky poses, really fun. Like what I love about this is it's exactly what we talked about. You gave me just enough for me to get it. Was this where was this at?
That was at Earth Cafe over in Orange Circle.
That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like somebody, at a coffee shop working. Super great. This is great. I mean, all these are pretty great. Oh, I love that. Look at that S curve.
Yeah.
Look at that little radiating fold out from the crotch. That's great. Yeah, really great. Love that. These are really good. Really good. That's great. You're outdrawing me right now, man. You and Megan are outdrawing me. Man, I wasn't nowhere near this good when I was your age. What's this one here? That's interesting.
Oh, this dude was sitting on a bench in the shade. He was just all alone and he looked really sad and he was just eating something. I think he was eating ice cream.
Is that at Orange again?
Yeah.
I got to get down there, man. With my new fountain pen. Great. Phil told me he might do because I just said I'm going to do a workshop on plein air. He's telling me he might do one on a like vehicle prop thing. You know, you might want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was thinking of doing that.
Great. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
Great. All from life?
Yeah. Over in Garden Grove when they have the car show, there's a few old couples that come in and they just dance together to the music.
I found those pictures. Shit, I forgot where I put them. I found those pictures of that old couple over at the Hilbert Museum.
Ooh.
These are just spectacular, man. Yeah?
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, a couple of the pictures got a little washed out when I was taking.
That's all right. Well, we can just do this. Probably. Oops. Yeah. Or contrast them a little bit. There we go. Did I put up the thing on leveling out your drawings for presentation?
I didn't see it if you did.
Okay, I'll make sure.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, I
Yeah,
did?
you
Okay.
did.
Now, one thing I do if I'm doing sketches on tone paper like this, I'll scan a blank tone paper and put it as the background, and then I'll cut my stuff out, put it on, and make it fit into the background, yeah?
Ooh, okay.
What I really love here is the proportion is really great. They're not stiff. You're picking like interesting poses like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like this. This is really sense of place. She got chopsticks?
She had like a fork or a spoon in her hand, and
Oh, from here it almost looks like chopstick. I love this exaggeration of the hair a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really sophisticated ideas. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, drawing guys playing or anybody playing guitar is tricky. If you ever notice, like placing the hands correctly in relation to the guitar, in relation to where it sits on the body.
Oh yeah, that's
Tricky,
really,
right?
Yeah.
And a guitar is a weird, complex shape. Even though it's simple, it's not.
Yeah, especially the different shapes that guitars come in.
Yeah.
You think you get it, and then they move positions, and you're like, that's a completely different shape.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, man. And then you're changing the perspective all the time on this very complicated thing, you know, especially if it's like, I mean, even acoustic, as simple as that shape is, it's complex to draw it, you know, and part of that equation is that it has to relate to the body, to the hands, you know, it's got all these things that are relating to it, you know, that make it very complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are pretty damn fantastic. Man, I love, this is where you're starting to, it feels like you're inspired by like the Glenn Keane sketchbooks and things like that, right?
Yeah.
Do you understand? I mean, it looks to me like you do, how charming that is.
I really like it. I think it's great.
I think it's so, like you look back at these things, you know, 10 years from now and you go, oh shit, I remember that. You know what I mean? I remember that day. Like I just found stuff from, I don't know, 06. I might have mentioned this, but there was a watercolor drawing there, or no, just a quick watercolor. And I remember, man, exactly where I was when I did that, that I was with this girl at the time, that the conversation that was going on, the weather. I remember everything about that moment. You know what I mean? Just from seeing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're documenting life, you know, and that's what's going to come into your work and make your work really strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
like this kind of stuff. These are human relationships. And the other thing I like is it's very easy to go dark, especially when you're younger, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that's fun. I get it. But it's very easy to just constantly go down the dark rabbit hole. And you're not doing that. You're showing me life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I like that. That's what I love about this. One of the things I love the most about this type of sketching and this skill set is that you get to go in and super absorb life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
These are awesome right here. You're totally nailing kids. I think, different types,
Mm-hmm.
So is it this guy or are you still playing?
I really like that guy, but I think I'll experiment a bit more,
Okay.
and I'll experiment with him a bit more as well.
It's a tricky
I really
pose
like
right
it.
there. It's tricky. I think you got a lot of tricky poses in here. This one, even this one.
I
And
don't know.
by
I
the way, like just a level up from maybe here or here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's final quality.
Mm-hmm.
Just a level up, like right about there. Give me a couple more little things in it, define it a little more, and that's it. I don't want all these things like all, tight line. I don't want that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm tired of seeing that. And I think it's good that you learn how to do that because you do need to learn how to do that. But 90% of the time, you're not doing that. And you got to learn how to throw down quick sketches that look really vibrant and live and are very clear and readable, but are like these. They're very clear. They're not stiff. They're great, right?
Yeah. I really want to go with him as a character. He's just really fun to draw.
Sure. These are I love this one here. That's really you got a bunch in here that are really capturing moment, sense of place, who they are, what they're doing, all those things, right? And you're also leaving, like here, you're leaving it all open for me who that is, where she is. I know she's like, probably in a coffee shop, something like that. I don't know if I need anything else. I probably don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing here. This guy, totally, I'm getting a vibe on that guy. Totally. I like this one here. Same thing, all these. I mean, look at that. That's great. That, man. You are right, man. What's the next step? What are you going to do next?
I don't know. I want to experiment with props, but I want to take some storyboarding classes next semester.
Oh, that's a great idea. Man, you got the skill set now to go into that. Totally.
Yay.
It's all this kind of like loose. That's the thing that Brian bitches about. Because I get all these kids here, they don't know how to draw, man. And in storyboarding, man, are you going to see how useful this is? Because you got to throw, this style is perfect for that.
Mm-hmm.
That very loose, quick, very descriptive, man. Right? But you leave, okay, so you're at Fullerton, then what?
After Fullerton, I want to try going to like art center or
Good.
Yeah.
So that's our focus now.
Mm-hmm.
Man, when do you want to go? Like, show me. I'm just telling you. What do you want to go into? Entertainment design?
Yeah, I do.
Then what I would do right now is, because Art Center is very clearly defined on what they want in that portfolio, and just start thinking about it right now, because you could start doing something. Some of this stuff in here will probably go into that portfolio.
Yeah.
Okay, and don't dick around. If that's what you want to do, get on with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've pinpointed where I'm going, so now I'm gonna start.
Have you been over there yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, as soon as they open up the campus, you and your folks, we're going over there.
Okay.
And I want to show you guys around. I think you're perfect. Okay, for that. Every now and then we get students. Some of them are perfect for Cal Arts, some of them are perfect for Art Center, some are perfect. And go for scholarships.
Yeah, definitely.
especially at your age, man, because they're going to be like, yeah, we want this person here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So they're going to be, I'm guessing, a little more inclined to want to hand you some money.
Yeah.
Because, any kind of top tier school, I don't care what it is, Harvard, whatever, they want the best students. And if they're looking at somebody and they're going, wow, this person's 17, 18 years old. Yeah. And you're going to be out of here by the time you're like 22 and you're done and you're on with your career.
Right.
All right, man. It's up to you what you want to do. Those are killer.
Okay. Thank
Who
you.
else?
I've got some.
Where you at? Who is it?
Gavin.
Gavin. Okay. Now, are these from photos?
Yeah, those are the only ones that I use the Earth world.
There's me in an alternate universe right there. If things hadn't gone right. Where was this at?
It was in Uptown Whittier in an alley. There was just some dudes sleeping right there, and I thought it was kind of perfect to draw.
God, man, that if you go down to LA, man, the homeless, it's not just LA, but man, that homeless thing is out of control.
Yeah.
There's parts of LA now where they've just completely taken over like whole sections of the city.
Yeah, I've seen.
It's insane, man.
For these though, I was trying to like dig into their character and figure out like who they are.
Now, what we want to do, so these are from Life Here?
Yeah.
So what we want to do here, probably like this one's starting to get some structure. Here, we're starting to lose it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's now look, there, when you're stylizing, this starts getting into a weird conversation where it's really about, I might be using the anatomy and stuff to give it a little bit of form or a little bit of design thinking or whatever. Because I don't want you guys to think that I'm always going, no, this anatomy's off. Because then you're going, well, wait a minute, am I stylizing or am I trying to make an anatomical drawing?
Yeah.
I'm using everything as a design element. It could be a fold, it could be a brow line, it could be anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Most of these too, I just did like a real loose sketch and then I took it home and went in more.
Try and get them, do some of that. That's fine. Watch where this axis line is on the face. So when you're drawing something, especially in 3/4, that axis line is moving in the direction of the face, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I kind of put a light axis line down there, then I can start to wrap my forms around it. And I know that they're placed correctly in space. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's going to automatically give me a little bit of form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also going to make sure, because if things drift off axis, or like we talked about, if I'm drawing a person sitting here and I start letting things get disconnected, all of a sudden this knee's way out here and this one's like, they're like weird, when this one actually would be probably closer facing me a little bit. And I start looking at the relationship between the knees. That's the same thing as this axis line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I'm always looking for whatever I can use to lock the forms together. Just like we were talking about with Eric's,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, make sure, how much cranium do I have between the ear and the back of the head? I think that's too much. How much brow line do I have? So like here, that brow line to me is a important thing.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it, and this is just how I see it, I sort of see this part of the head, the forehead, and then this sort of segues into the next part of the face. I break it up here, and then that sort of that brow line sort of locks the cheeks and everything. The next section. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And then I go, boom, here's like, this little ventriloquist dummy idea here sort of locks in there. And then this comes down here. Like I have a very specific way, and it's not unique to me. It's probably what I learned, in head drawing and all that.
Yeah.
But I think about it, and I don't live in, it doesn't live in my head. Now, when I first started, I'm sure I had to think about it a lot, right? But eventually that stuff's going to get second nature. And you're also going to find your own little building blocks based on hopefully good information. You know, and you'll just sort of create your own methodology. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you won't have to think about it as much. So here, again, we're sort of losing these interior shapes. It's starting to get a little flat in here.
Yeah.
So again, I might just punch a couple. Now this, I might just punch a couple of things. Look, I just punched the eyes and the nose a little bit, and it's already sort of helping, right?
Yeah.
And then here, a little more of that mouth, maybe. Now define this little area here in the ear because it wasn't very defined. Is this like a mohawk? It is, right?
Yeah.
I might break that a little more. I don't know. That's probably a little too much right there, but you know, pull it into the hair or the scalp a little. Get a little more of that eyebrow in here. That's a little much, but that's fine. And I might, you know, find a shadow value inside the eye socket, and that's gonna, all that's gonna help lock this together. Maybe there's a shadow value cast off his head. You know, what's happening here. This is getting flat. So if this is a compression fold, maybe that's a little more in front of that. You know, maybe there's a fold here, whatever it is. Watch your proportion here, right? This leg is really facing this way, which it wouldn't. Like you're not going to sit with your foot like that. It's going to be more like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And then, so, you know, this is going to face a little more towards me. So when I'm setting that up, my wedge, I always think of this ball area of the foot in front of the heel area, if that helps at all. It's sort of a two-part thing. You got the ball of your foot, and then you got the heel of your foot. And it literally, if you look at it in certain points of view, this is really in front of this. Same thing here. So we got to get some of that structure. When you're doing, it feels like these are being drawn sort of separate ideas. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Instead of, again, kind of coming in here and going, okay, that's where that lands. That's where the nose, bottom of the nose lands. It tilts up a little. Here's where the mouth lands. Here's the eye. And I haven't done anything, but I've already got structure to that face. Do you see that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you got to think that big shape and lock that together. And then how do I interpret this hair? She's got an ear here. You know, again, I don't want all this flat in here.
Yeah.
So then I go, you know, is there a mass here maybe? Is there a mass here? You know, and then if she's got earrings or something, sometimes I'll overemphasize them a little bit, make them a little bigger, just because it's fun to draw. And where's that chin land? Now I just repeated 3 shapes there. I wouldn't do that. You know. And I get a little more structure to that face, but the key to it is sort of get this head shape in there. There's my eyes, there's the bottom of my nose, there's the mouth. Yeah, and there's that dip right there if you want to put that in there. But, you know, right away I want to lock these big shapes together. Yeah?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now this one has a lot more shape. I mean, a lot more structure. Now also be careful when you're sort of going super light to super dark. Right?
Yeah.
So you're
I was trying to like
Go
block
ahead.
in the shadow value, but I see what you're saying.
What was I going to say? Oh, so you got a this is a gray, cool gray paper, right?
No, it's actually white.
Oh,
I
okay.
took it.
That's
and
different. Okay, so then I got to go, you know, what color was this jacket?
I think it was darker. I don't really remember the color.
So what I'm going to do here, if it's a dark value, is I'm going to establish the overall probably mid-tone value, right? And there it is. Okay. And then now that dark doesn't seem so crazy, right?
Yeah.
this was a pretty good drawing.
Thank you.
Okay, and then look how the leg's flattening out.
Yeah.
So, you know, is there a pocket here? Is there a seam here? And I don't overemphasize any of that. Is there a fold here maybe, or wherever? Can I put this leg maybe into silhouette just to push it back? You know, and start to get some. And then here, you know, I always use that old trick of casting a shadow on the top of the face. See how it just locked the whole top of his head together?
Yeah.
You know, and then he's an old guy, right? Now, I get it that, like, I'm asking you guys to do something when you're trying to get a handle just on the drawing part. I totally get that, okay? But I kind of need to go through this exercise because the point of this type of sketching or whatever is so you can make work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I have to at least go through a few exercises of sort of like the stylizing from life kind of thing, and this thing, you know, where it's like, at least if, you know, you're working at it and you're getting a methodology that you go out of here sort of understanding, putting, and not just in this class, putting your classes into actual work.
Yeah.
Right. Because what happens a lot with people in college, not just in art, but just in general, they don't know that some of the things that they learned in college were actually exercises to teach them an idea. Right.
Yeah.
Then they go out of college and they keep repeating the exercise. And you're like, don't you get it? That's an exercise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I don't know. I grew up Catholic, the Bible. At some point I went, oh, these are kind of parables. Like that's not about that story necessarily. That's to teach you, like, don't be an asshole, you know, or don't, you know, whatever. Don't steal things or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You know, it's a parable to teach you an idea. You know, but then I go, you know, what was characteristic of this guy? If I like him, you know, can I push that? Oops. Can I push that? You know, where's the old man stuff I can push here? You know, has he got the bigger old man nose? You know, can I push this idea a lot more? The jolly idea? Can I push that neck a little less taut? Right?
Yeah.
You know, and then again, you know, if I land on something, then I can push that. Then I can start going, okay, maybe it's a little more of this. Maybe I make him a little crabbier. Give him a really weak chin. Maybe drop his hat down a little bit. You know, and I just start going down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what kind of an old guy is he. You know, I could take some of those, again, you know, physical things that happen and I can stylize them. Maybe you know, the hat is fun. I don't know why, but my brain's going, you know, I don't know why. My brain's going into those old golf hats with the big puff on top. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know why it just went there. You know, so maybe for some reason he's a golfer. I don't know, right? I just like to let my brain drift, right?
Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so we're understanding structure a little more, right? So we need to go after structure a little more, yeah? And it feels like these are being drawn sort of like very deliberately. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe I should loosen up more or try to get it all down and not work on it more.
Yeah, like this girl or the guy, whatever. But this is what I was talking about when we were talking about doing the really simple shape breakdowns. Like, do a few of those, you know, and this girl, try and get, you know, just put in these really basic shapes. first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then I go, how's that leg working? And maybe it comes over here. And then I've just got this little line here, this here. Where does that land? And then I'll start to build my stuff over this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think my problem is I did that at first and then took it home to like
Yeah.
build on it more.
Do it on location. And there's nothing wrong with fiddling around with your drawings. I do that. But right now, throw them down on location, move on. Throw down another one, move on. Throw down another one, move on. That's what you got to get through right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And don't think like this. Think like, there's that big shape. There's that big shape. There's that big shape. Now I'm going to go into the next smallest shape. There's the next smallest shape. Now the next smallest shape, and I'm out. Boom. I'm doing another one.
Yeah.
Because we got to get that repetitive methodology going.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think anybody gets better without doing that. I just saw some Sebastian Kruger earlier stuff, and I always remember Sebastian Kruger being fully formed out of the box. And it's weird. I saw this painting from him from that era when I first discovered him. I'm like, holy crap, he's night and day different now. His work looks way primitive, and at the time, it did not look primitive at all. But compared to what he's doing now, because that's I don't know, 20-year curve. I mean, he's just a master at it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he kind of was then. But like, there's a looseness and stuff to his work. You know, figure out the stylization of that hair, how that's going to work, right? And be careful again with this. You're going really dark to really light. There's probably a mid-tone in there.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that this one's starting to get a little better.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more loose than the others.
Yeah, and it's got a sense of weight about it. Yeah. I've seen this guy 100 times. I mean, he literally looks like somebody I've seen 100 times. Oh, this is in Venice Beach. I haven't been out there in a long time.
Yeah, I went out there last weekend. It was cool.
It's probably a good sketch spot. I don't know if I've ever gone there and sketch. I always kind of stay away from Venice.
Yeah,
But I mean, it does have a lot of people to draw.
I paint on the mural, the walls that they have right there. Yeah. I usually go for that.
Every now and then you get somebody who's in town or something from out of California. Hey, I want to go to Venice Beach. I go, no, you don't.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I get it for a sketch spot. I totally get it. I should go out because I haven't been out in forever out there. But you go, let me, you know, it's just like, let me take you someplace where there's Venice Beach is sort of where the people who aren't cool go to try and be cool. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's a fun place. I get it. But it's just like when people say they want to go there, I go, don't you get it? It's just sort of a trashy, it's not that interesting.
Yeah. I remember being a little kid asking my parents to take me thinking it was like something extravagant. And then we went and it was like, what?
Yeah. I mean, it's got its own charm, I guess. But and the Pike down in Long Beach used to be a weird, super weird area. But it was kind of fun. All right, who else?
Hi, Mike.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Who is it?
Who is that?
I can't hear you.
Evelyn, you go first.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi, Mike. This is Evelyn. Can you take a look at mine?
Sure. You're either at or were at Cal State Fullerton, right?
Yes.
Are you there now?
No, I graduated already.
Okay. And you want to do what, entertainment stuff?
Yes. I want to focus on prop design.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And the last 2 pages are the character sketch that I did for the last project.
Have these gotten looser? They feel like they've gotten looser to me.
Yes. Because actually when I'm drawing them, like I tend to draw the people more like in a distance to me, because if I do that, I kind of just like focus on the shape of the.
Yep, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
It really helps clarify just the big shapes, right?
Yes.
That's great. And these are, you know, like this is great. I like that I like the way you just unfinished the legs, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. This. I like that rectangle right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Rectangle right there. Where's this at?
I live near the San Gabriel. So this is a part called Bernie Park near my house.
Oh, you're in San Gabriel?
Yes.
Like near what? What's the city?
At Rosemead.
Oh, Rosemead. Okay.
Yes.
Is Lake Park still there?
Yes. There's a lot of views there, but I haven't been there for a while.
Yeah, I haven't been there since I was a kid. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is interesting because he's pulling back to throw it, right?
Yeah.
That's a complex thing, and I knew it right off,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is really good. Am I going chronologically?
Yes.
Well, this is fun. This is fun. This is fun. We should do a pandemic show. See, this is what bugs me about the gallery on campus.
Mm-hmm.
I want to control it a little bit, and I want to have some fun in there, but it's sort of controlled by the gallery director or whatever. And you're like, man, can we do something fun in there for a change? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why don't we do a pandemic show? A bunch of artwork the students have made when they were locked down, and what were we doing? It could be fun, right?
Yes.
So this is starting to talk about the character thing, right?
Yes.
So who is this?
There's a group of teenagers who like I happen to see them like every Friday now because they come to park and just playing like skateboard
Oh yeah.
and and playing this like football throwing. So and this is one of the kids like who has like really like puffy hairs. So that's why I wanted to pick like really have like puffy hairs.
Yeah, so I might. So okay. Now, I might. You know, is he lanky?
A little bit. Little.
You know, when I'm thinking about teenagers, I think about that lankiness. I might still have the big ears. You know, just obviously what I'm looking at. I'd probably make this even bigger, this hair. Right?
Yes.
You know, maybe a little crazier or whatever. I'd really, I'd think about this eye language. I don't feel like it's defined yet. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know, and I play around with a lot of things with that. You know, maybe this in one case, maybe this, maybe this. You know, there's a lot of eye language that I can play with, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sometimes I do something like that that's very much a shape idea and go, how can I interpret that? You know, and I just go all over the place with it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, you know, and then I might give him an Adam's apple. And then define how, you know, maybe he's holding his board. Define how lanky he is. Oh, shit, I'm on the wrong lane. Let's do this. Oops. Come on. Oops. Sorry, I have to get rid of this. So, you know, again, how far does this lanky idea go? Oh, sorry. How far does this lanky, damn it, lanky idea go? Yeah.
Yes.
You know, as you got big shorts, you know, oversight. A lot of times, again, with the younger people, they haven't grown into their feet yet, so their feet can be really big.
Mhm.
These can seem lower than normal, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So, in other words, you know, how far can you push them?
Yeah, that's what I struggle to.
It's, you know, it's something you got to learn how to do, like anything else, right? Really long
Actually,
shirt. Go ahead.
Actually, I did look up some like a character checklist. Do you recommend doing that?
Look, anything, here's the only thing I don't want, you know, sure. The thing I don't like about, there's sort of a culture around, and I know I'm saying this all the time, there's sort of a culture around all this entertainment design and character design. And a lot of it to me is just, it's too fanish. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It's being approached too much from this fanboy perspective. And then people, I see stuff like that and people are going, giving advice to each other. And it's like, okay, number one, you don't know what you're doing and you're giving advice to people that you've just heard. And it's not good advice. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes it is. Like somebody in here just said their friend said, hey, you should do this and this. And it was good advice. Sometimes it is. Okay. What I'm trying to get you guys to do is become your own thinkers and your own design thinkers. Okay. And I feel like a lot of those kind of discussions start to become very formulaic. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like you see all the time where people go, I'm working on my style right now. It's like, good luck. Because if you're sitting around working on your style, that means you're just copying somebody else's style. Style
Mhm.
won't happen. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So anyway, we're just starting to push this guy. I think he's a little too feminine looking. I'd push his features more towards guy again. But you know, and I'm kind of going off of what I see with a lot of teenagers. You know, a lot of teenagers, I mean, everybody goes through it. They think they're really cool and they're not. They're usually a little gawky, you know, not all of them, but you know, there's still little things from being a kid still in there. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Like the big ears and the kind of big feet and some, you know, just things being a little wacky and out of proportion because they haven't quite grown into everything yet.
Yeah, and all of them like tend to wear like oversized shirt.
Yeah. And by the way, like, you know, most kids, most people have a uniform, right? Now, maybe not everybody, but most people have some sort of uniform they wear where they want to transmit to the world what their tribe is, right?
Yes.
You know, in this case, skateboard culture, could be stoner culture, could be sports. I mean, sports culture is a great example of it. I think I told you guys I went and drew in this sports bar. I never go to sports bars because it's not my thing, but I just wanted to stop and get a beer. And it was the only place there. And these people, I went in there and every guy in there looked the same, right?
Yes.
They're all wearing those big oversized, they're all overweight. They're all wearing these big oversized jerseys from some team. And then it would always have somebody's name on the back of it, like the player they think is cool and the number, right?
Yes.
They all had goatees. They all had the same haircut. They all wore baseball hats, like the same kind of baseball hats with the team on it. And they're all about that. They're fans of this sports team. That's their identity, right?
Yes.
But most people, like a lot of people have a version of that. Might not be sports, but it's whatever their tribe is. Like I've seen it with art students in college that are just trying too hard to be arty. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, and they got this sort of punky look and whatever they think is sort of arty looking. You're like, man, you're trying too hard, you know? Like I get it. You're an art student. I got it. But you know, I can play with those things, right?
Yes.
These are the same guys, right?
Yeah.
This one's starting to work here. I like that. And I like this one. Okay, does you have any other questions?
Do you have any recommendation on the facial expression? Because I reference a lot of like the expression shift from the Disney, so that's why they all have like a big eyes. So do you have any recommendation from different style?
Now, with this, the one I always go to because the draftsmanship is so good and the design is really good, but it's also not totally ridiculously stylized in a weird way. This guy's a monster. He's really good. And if you look at his drawings, hang on. There's a lot of just real understanding of the face in there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now it's interesting because he's going here where he's really pulling much more from a sort of naturalistic perspective a little bit. Does that make sense? I mean, he's pushing it, but do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But one of the main things with this, to me, he is using, especially in this case, he's using sort of anatomical things like this. Okay. Like that jaw right there still feels like it's sort of jutting out slightly. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Or this even though a lot of people, when they do an expression like that, they sort of do I don't know, like just this big sort of flat shape sitting on the face like that. This is definitely telling me that this is in front of this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So and also the way that the mouth works here, this is much more closer to that because it's telling me that this face rolls around this way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And there's a cheek on this side right here, and there's a cheek over on the other side. So it's telling me a lot of information, sort of the cylindrical quality of the head, right?
Yes.
And then another thing, expressions are holistic. Okay. So I can't just go, oh, he's surprised. And I go, you know, you want a little more, you know, the mouth's going to open, the eyes are going to go up, the eyes are going to get wider. And people a lot of times don't tie everything together. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's what anime is. That's why I can't stand anime, because it's like the expressions are so disconnected and stupid looking that I'm like, I don't know what this is. What is this? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I get that it's very stylized, but I'm like, yeah, but it's crappy stylization. It's like annoying to me. Okay. And it should be annoying to you. Okay. So here's a good example. Another thing, the eye, and I see this a lot. People will put the pupil floating in the middle of the circle of the eye like that, and it's going to look like this, but they're not intending for the guy to be going like that. Your eyes don't do that. If you look at your eyes, you're seeing part of your pupil, then your upper and lower lid usually obscure some of it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you got to think about all these things. You know, if you take a small thing, well, they did it here, you know, and you raise up this eyebrow and put this one more like that, it's a whole different expression, right?
Yeah.
And I'd also probably have to, you know, get this eye down a little more. And see, I mean, it's just this simple stuff, right?
Uh-huh.
And what I like it, why I use Jin Kim's stuff is because it's got a really nice, he's just a really good drafts person, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then he's got this down view a little bit. Look at, he moved the mouth closer up to the nose, right? Why? because when I do that, that's what it does, right?
Yes.
So he's thinking about all sorts of, this is another one. It's very simplified, but there's a very strong sense of anatomy and form in 3D. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, the best way to, the reason I like this is because you can look at this and sort of get an idea, breaking it down, then go back to, live drawing, or in this case, maybe go find people in mid-conversation and sort of try to, what I look at when I'm looking at somebody with expression, again, I always want to go to the headwaters. Like this guy, it's good to look at this because you're kind of going, oh, okay, I see how he's doing that or whatever. But then I want to go back to, all these people have really interesting handles on their face. So his face obviously is a lot longer, right?
Yeah.
And then also he's really got the, so he's got this sort of thing. I might really over push that and decide how I'm to do the eyes. He's got this long nose. So he's got this whole thing with his whole face has very elongated features. I might tilt that smirk up a little more. See what I mean?
Yes.
It gives him more of that snarky quality or whatever you want to call it. And then also what's interesting, he has his ears, but you can really see his cheekbones. That mass. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what's fun to me about doing this is I don't give a crap what I start with. It's where I end up that's interesting to me. So I might just look at that and go, who is this guy? Like once you give them all these angular features, they start taking on a whole different quality, even though it's just coming from this, this photo, obviously.
Mhm.
Then if I give them a formality, like maybe a uniform, I'm going to make his hair different. And maybe I'll give him a little bit of form on his bridge of his nose here. Maybe he's, I don't know. He looks a little severe. Maybe he's some kind of military person with a very formal militaristic thing on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But, we're just pushing those expressions a little harder to hopefully come up with something else. Why is my, oh, that's why. Is that answering the question?
Yes.
Also, I don't like that, but also sometimes right here, I might push that little cheek mass a little harder. I don't really like it on this one, and then I'm going, okay, there's a very skull-like quality to this, to his face. Now that I'm looking at it, I can really see his skull in there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
He's kind of angular, so I might push that a little bit. Give him a very formal costume or whatever. I think this guy's coming from, we're watching this show and there's a lot of Nazis in it. So that's probably where my brain's at right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Military guy.
Maybe he's got his list here. Where are your papers? Maybe it's a clipboard. Put some pull folds off the buttons. And blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you might want to just go type in expressive faces and start and go. And by the way, get ones with big handles to start. And then just go, okay, because what I want you to see that I think nobody talks about for the most part is how everything interrelates.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of these big expressions, but it's like, it's not relating to the mouth, or the mouth's not relating to this, or the, like that first guy we started with has that crooked thing and the nose goes crooked and they don't put that stuff in there. And, you know, you can start going through these things and, you know, you're going to land on, because people go, oh, there's millions of expressions. Well, I would start with anger, surprise, laughter, amusement, maybe, you know, the big ones. Yeah.
Yes.
And then, you know, and because the more subtle ones, you know, yeah, they get tricky, but it's also the subtle ones are more subtle, right? And if you're going for a big expression, you got to learn how to lock it together, you know, and then again, I mean, I'm stylizing here. I'm totally simplifying, but you can see how it goes right down the rabbit hole. It's like, oh, he's a Nazi or something, right?
Yes.
And for me, that just, and that's what I'm trying to get you guys to, is where your brains are just doing that, where your brains are going, you know, they go down the story rabbit hole. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And with the expression thing, it'd be actually not a bad thing. Let's add that to our list for drawing this week. Let's go to some expressive photos and let's interpret a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good.
You know, and then take that also into the real world when you start going, okay, I kind of get this, like how this works, you know, because you're going to find out, I'm always trying to simplify things, not complicate things. And you're going to find out that a lot of things like this, you go, oh, well, if this is going up, there's a cheek mask there, right? If this is going this way, the nose is going to follow it. If I'm doing this, I'm probably smirking or whatever, you know, it just, you know, you're not doing those things independent of each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which again is why, and, you know, if I turn this forearm and this mouth's open, it's sort of like when we talked about those Jin Kin drawings. Think about that face is cylindrical. There's a cheek on this side and on this side. And then what is the actual shape of the mouth, right? And then you're jumping off from there. What people tend to do with, especially with expressive stuff, and again, this comes out of this character stuff, is they sort of just make it all up. And it's like, well, it looks all made up because you don't understand how any of that works. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I hope that I'm encouraging you guys to get in front of life models as much as you can, right?
Yes.
Life drawing. Find a group. Like if you've already taken life drawing, I mean, it's always good. You find a group. There's a lot of them out there. Okay.
Okay.
For straight up figure drawing, right? And just go in there and get in front of that model, man, all the time. You got to understand that if you want to do character work, or if you want to, or just even if you're an illustrator and you're going to have people in your illustrations and stuff, you got to be able to paint people, man. If you can't do that, you are screwed. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And I keep telling this to people with character design. It really drives me crazy. It's like, have you had life drawing? No. Have you had basic drawing? No. Have you had whatever, you know, but you're in character design. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing? Like you talk about putting the cart before the horse. You're putting the cart way before the horse doing that. It's 2 blocks away. You can't do that. You need to go in a methodical, fundamental fashion, and then you're going to be much stronger. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'd argue you just don't know what the hell you're doing if you don't do that. You just don't. And I hope that you guys are seeing how, to me, it's very satisfying to go and learn your craft from the ground up. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And going, you know, that way when I'm questioning myself, like I think I've said this, but like when I went over to Disney to do a workshop, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? I'm going to come in here and tell all these best artists in the world, I'm going to teach them something. You know what I mean? Because at first I'm going, what? That's insane. And then I go, no, you got a lot of shit you can teach them. You know what I mean? And you go in and you find out you do. But, you know, it's at first it's intimidating and all that. Then you go, man, you do know your shit. So don't worry about it. You know what I mean? And I like feeling like that. I like feeling like I actually know what the hell I'm doing.
That's like the thinking process. Like you think when you draw.
Yeah, it's trying to get it, you know, and again, the way to get clarity in your drawing and the way to get just where you're in it, which is my favorite feeling probably in the world, is to be in a painting or in a drawing, or I'm drawing somewhere, headphones on, I'm just like having a blast, right? And I'm not thinking about all the stuff I'm doing. It's just happening. And a lot of times I look at that stuff later and I go, man, I don't know where that came from. It just feels like you're channeling something. That's technique, but the technique is now a little bit out of the way. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's why you learn technique. You don't learn technique to show off your technique. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we need to learn the principle first before the technique.
And you're
Yeah.
learning what you're doing. And just like we're talking about, and a lot of you guys are hitting this, but like those ones I was talking about with Haley, what I like about those is like those speak to me as a human or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if you're going to go do character work and all those things, your work better speak to people. Like all these characters in these movies or whatever, all of us care about those characters. They're a bunch of drawings. Okay. Aladdin's a bunch of drawings, but I give a damn about that character. I don't want something bad to happen to him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's the human element, right?
Right.
And they make it a living, breathing, believable, emoting actor. And I'll give you another example. When I saw Shrek, I probably said this. You could have killed any character in Shrek. I wouldn't give a damn. Okay, does that make sense?
Who is Shrek?
I just thought it was a horrible movie. I didn't care about the characters. I thought they were kind of ugly design. I didn't like the design at all.
Oh.
I just was like, I don't care about any of these characters. You know, I don't care. Kill them all. I don't care.
Which movie have you found that you really like the characters?
Who is that?
Oh,
Megan.
this is Megan.
Crazy Megan. Ratatouille.
Okay.
Up. Any of the old Disney classics.
Mhm,
Aladdin.
okay, got it.
Beauty and the Beast. Little Mermaid.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of them, you know. I mean, you know, I'm more of a Disney guy than probably, you know, what else have I seen that I really liked? There's some other ones I've seen from other studios I've really liked. Ratatouille was right in my comfort zone. Like, right, I love that whole Parisian cooking world. I just love all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
I thought it was just an interesting, again, I just like being in that world.
Mhm.
I have this obsession with Paris, and every time I try to get over there, something always stops me. So, and now my girlfriend wants to go with me, and I'm like, man, I just want to get on a plane and go. I don't want to go through that crap. You know what I mean?
Yes.
By the way, this is the danger of a sketchbook, in my opinion. I think I told you guys I'm going to go out to Virginia, right? And now my girlfriend's going, oh, I want to go. I'm like, man, I don't want you to go. You know?
Uh-huh. You just want it to be you and your sketchbook.
Man, there is something so magical about traveling around by yourself for me, especially road tripping and stuff. It doesn't happen if somebody's in the car with me. I got all my paint stuff and my drawing and my sketchbooks and all that crap. I am good to go, man. Like, I just love doing that. Okay. And I love that I can just get in the car, point it, and just go have an adventure. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Once you go with somebody, then they're like, well, aren't we going to go and do this? Well, are you just going to paint the whole time? Yes, that's what I'm going to do. That's why I didn't want you to come. And I've gone down that rabbit hole before where people go, no, I can entertain myself. They never do. They always want you to do something. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. You see that weird little place over there? I want to go in there and talk to people and draw people and get stories. That's what I want to do. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, whatever it is. I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
When I traveled for work, I like traveling by myself. Hey, do you want so-and-so to go with you? Hell no. I want to go by myself. I haven't looked at Maximus. Where are you at?
I'm here.
So how you doing?
Okay, I think.
Get a little more on this interior, yeah?
Yeah.
Where you been drawing people at?
Oh, that's mostly at home, and then I went to the Pike in Long Beach.
Oh, we just talked about the Pike. That's weird.
Yeah.
I like that. I love Long Beach, man.
Yeah, it's cool over there.
The Pike used to be well, you probably know, used to be like an amusement park on the water.
Oh.
Then it got real seedy and run down. And then the whole area, and then it sort of disappeared. And then the whole area was just run down. It was like tattoo parlors and all that stuff. Now they revitalized it. This is good. This putting the belly over the pants like that.
Yeah.
I'd say loosen these shorts up a little. And again, the same thing I've been telling everybody, like here, was a sleeve cut off or was that a commercial shirt that didn't have sleeves?
No, I was wearing like a tank top
Oh, tank top. Okay, so then give me a little of this, you know.
and
That-
tight shorts, really
that
tight
little-
shorts.
We did have tight shorts on. I just always try and find something I can put in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This might come out a little more down here somewhere. Yeah, actually, I don't like that. Narrow shoulders, that's fine. And then again, get into a little more stuff I can put in here. You know, I'm just trying to find things that are design elements. You know, how are you going to handle the beard? Like when you're doing these things, you want to make a decision on how you're handling this hair, how you're handling this beard,
Yeah.
right? So the decision is like, is this a big pompadour-y thing, you know, that has a lot of value as it rolls around? So we talked about this. This would be almost like a tube, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe a little of that, maybe a sideburn. Okay, now when you're doing glasses, come back in here and sort of shape them out. You can pop them in just the way you did, but then they have a shape, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times I'll do them like this right across the face. And so a lot of times they're tilted down. Then I go, okay, that nose is right there. And then I start dialing in the shape. They're usually softer corners, dips, you know, and they tilt in usually like that, you know, depending on what kind of glasses they are. And then does it have this kind of thing where it comes back and dips like you see that? Sometimes it's just the thin thing, but maybe up here, there's a little bit of hardware and it gets darker. You know, sometimes there's that little nose bridge thing there. And then, you know, inside of this in here, I'm going to knock in a few dark shapes in here around that eye, because it just, I don't know why, it just works really well. It's just sort of reflect these shapes and things like that on glasses, right?
Okay.
And then, so I'm sort of looking at them really from that perspective. These glasses are huge. And then, you know, am I going to make them bigger, smaller? And I always look at where this nose wing is in relation to the glasses. And it's really surprising. Like certain people's noses are like right up under the glasses. It's weird. And then some people's are much longer. It's weird. Like where that lands sometimes is kind of odd, right?
Okay.
I mean, just based on what my brain thinks it's going to be. You know, and then you see a very angular guy. He looks kind of angular. Maybe his chin comes out like that. Maybe he's got a little bit of an underbite. You know, and then he has this weird Elvis hair thing going on. You know, and then maybe I'll do this, you know, and then how do I want to handle that? Like that? You know, there's a million ways I can handle the beard or the eyes or anything. Maybe he's a little older. Then I'll soften that a little bit. Again, Adam's apple, maybe. Blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we want to get a little more in this interior, kind of like we've been talking about with everybody, yeah?
Okay.
It's just, but I like this kind of simplified language. I think it just needs to get knocked up into a little more design.
Okay.
Like I like this very simplified, you know, kind of expressive thing.
Yeah.
But get very Okay, so now you want to go in and go, okay, I'm making solid design decisions here now. I'm going to take this up a level and make the eyes are like this, the hair's like this, the beard's like this, the body type's like this. Super defined. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
What are you doing? You doing entertainment design stuff or illustration? What do you want to do?
Illustration.
Oh, cool. What brought you into illustration?
I didn't really know like what to do, like what it was called until I started following a bunch of artists and I saw that they were all illustrators. I'm like, that's kind of what I want to do, kind of what I want to draw.
Like print illustrators, entertainment illustrators?
Like children's book illustration.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Graphic
right.
novels.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I like that. Then we need to go down that rabbit hole, yeah?
Yeah.
Mike,
Yes.
I wanted to go next after everyone.
I can't hear you. Who is it?
Joyce.
Where are you at? Joyce Hahn?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you are. Okay, make sure I can hear you because you're talking really quietly.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, Joyce, here you are. I might just go through, we'll see. Let me just go through lunch. I don't know, but we'll see. Okay, these are expressive. Were you looking at Robert Valley at all?
No, I don't know who that is.
Haven't I talked about him in here?
I don't remember.
Huh?
I don't remember. Maybe if I saw his work.
Yeah, you would. Hang on. A couple of you, I think a couple of you, maybe it was you. I don't remember who it was. Sort of have a little bit of that. Does this very elongated kind of thing.
Oh.
I love this one. Yeah. Look at the look at the hair design. That's cool, man. And the goggly thing. I mean, that's super cool. And then look at how he started playing with this curly. I mean, he's really having some fun with this, like these shapes and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool, man. Look at these things. It's just so fun.
Looks very 70s.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't know how old he is. Look.
It's kind of more like graphic.
Yeah, very graphic. But you know, you can always pull graphic elements into your work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's up to you. That's a personal style thing. But you know, if you go on, you know, a show or something like that, there's a lot of shows. Dora the Explorer is super graphic, right? Gravity Falls was super graphic. You know, there's a bunch of them. You know, that just have a very graphic language. You know, and the reason, you know, because you want to be versatile, and if you come onto a show or something like that, they expect you to jump in there and they're going to give you a style Bible and all that kind of stuff and go, here's where all this came from. Here's how we're thinking. Now go design it. They're going to Camp Komarov this weekend or in the next episode. Design it, you know, and you're going to know how to do that because you're going to look at the shape language from previous things and pull it in there and start pulling that shape language in there, right?
Yeah.
So it's this sort of elongated big feet thing that kind of, and this, you can see what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I think it helped, or like, I think it's also because I was a graphic designer before I went back to art school. So I think
graphic designers a lot of times have an advantage when they come into this kind of world because they understand simplification and simple shapes.
I see.
And sometimes graphic design to me is like, it's very kind of pure design. Like you don't have all these, ooh, I'm going to put a really super bitchin' illustration in here. You don't always have that thing. It's like, I got type, I got a few assets, I got some color, I got, you know, that's all I got. And I got to make something interesting.
Yeah.
And that's a good exercise. Not to mention, I know a million really good illustrators and all that kind of stuff. They're terrible graphic designers, which is totally weird to me. You know,
Yeah,
you go to their
different
website and you go,
world.
oh my God, your website looks awful. Like, how is it possible that your website looks this bad? And it sure doesn't sell me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I like these a lot.
Oh, me
Who is
too.
this?
She was just this girl who was walking by, and I liked her outfit, and she was like a teenager, and she kind of looked like an oddball out amongst her friends, so she kind of caught my eye.
I like this.
Like the face shape.
I just like all of it.
Oh,
I like the shoe design. I love this little pigtaily thing. I love this. This is great. This is fun. This is fun. These are getting very expressive, which is really cool. Right?
It's good. Mm.
Yeah, these are great.
Yeah, I was like realizing like I need to like vary up my poses more. I feel like I'm too safe. Like I don't draw the hard poses because I know it's gonna be hard. I realize that.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you just got to do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The danger with all this is that here's the danger with it is it, and I, again, another reason I want to do this class is you got to learn to get in a sketchbook and not be afraid of it. Like a lot of people are afraid of making bad drawings or afraid of, oh, it's an expensive sketchbook and now I'm going to ruin it. And all this stupid, it's like, fill it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until you break that ice and what that going, oh, I'm drawing these safe poses. That's not cool. Just do it. Just go, okay, good. I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah, I'm going to make some crappy drawings maybe because I'm not as familiar with that pose or whatever.
Yeah.
So what? Because, you know, 2 weeks from now, you're going to go, oh, I'm getting this, you know?
Yeah.
And then you're going to go, now I'm drawing these poses too much. And then you're going to have to do something else.
Yeah. I agree. I had a question about like, I guess I was wondering like if you had more examples of the cafe to character sketch. Like
I'll try and find some. I got to go back and look.
I'm not sure like how finalized you want it or like, if it's up to us. I'm not sure how finalized you want it or if it's up to us. Like,
well, just like when we were looking at Haley's, those were almost presentable. You know what I'll do? I'll go find example. I think I already have some. Just examples in general of like, because I don't want them all sparkly cleaned up. I don't want that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. Like, is the love like? Can we color it? I know I colored that one. Like, can we do that?
I mean, it's fine. Here's my comment to that. It's like I don't care if you color them. Don't make that the focus.
Oh, okay.
Like I've had students and they go, I go, these don't really feel very finished or whatever. And they're like, well, I spent a lot of time on the color. And I'm like, well, that's not part of the assignment. So you spent all your time on color and you didn't spend the time on the drawing. You know, if you're going to color them, that's fine. But make sure it doesn't detract from anything, right?
Okay, yeah.
And then like here, I'm looking at this one and you can see how this arm is starting not to relate to this body. You see that?
Yeah, yeah.
It's feeling like way down here. Now you can get away with things like that, right? You can, but it's got to visually make sense, right? And this shoulder over here is down low, so I get that.
And I guess if you're raising your shoulder, then it wouldn't be so low. It would actually.
I like these weird. These are cool shapes. All these. This is funny. This is cool. You know, and that's what, again, I've said, I pounded you guys on this probably already. It's design thinking, man. Get out there and go see amazing designs outside of whatever it is you like, right? Product design, car design. Look, Haley's on this car craze thing. I think that's awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Or whatever kick you guys get on, or you know, some of you are like, man, I really like drawing people from life. I'm having a lot of fun, or what. I just love hearing that. You know what I mean? Because I know that's going to make you better, right?
Yeah.
And do you understand? I mean, I don't have any problem with like, hey, it's change the shape, face or face shape. That's fine. But do you understand what I'm saying about it being informed? Correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You're not just doing like random
class.
shapes.
That's a different class, different discussion. I don't know the context of it. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying in here, I don't want that. I don't want formulaic character design thinking in here at all. I want you guys to find your own trip. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And by the way, I'd argue that these feel like your own thing.
That's good.
There's some funny stuff in here.
She's taking a picture with friends.
It's just such a weird expression. Like, it's just such a weird expression. It's kind of funny. This one's funny. You got some good stuff in here.
Okay, that's good.
Now, I really like this right here. I really like this shape language. I like this shape. I really like this here. This shape language you're starting to hit, you know, here. Really like this a lot. This is fun. I mean, these are fun. Yeah?
Yeah.
This is fun. This is great, man.
Thank you.
This is fun. I mean, you really got a real interesting shape thing happening. Where are these at?
At Orange.
I like this. I like this, the way she's reading that. That's great. All right. Did we answer what we were talking about?
Yeah, I have a question about like where to take it from here, because
What?
where to take it from here, because I was wondering if like that color piece, if that's like vinyl material or
No,
I'm not
I
sure if
think you
should
got.
keep
I
it
think you
more
got other
loose
ones that are
or-
stronger in here.
Okay, do that. Do the other stuff.
Yeah, I just think you have some stronger ideas in here than that one.
Okay.
And also, if I'm gonna paint this, like what is this, marker?
Yeah, it's Copic.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna come in here and give it some value if I'm gonna do this.
Okay.
I'd also might
Okay.
give it a more interesting background graphic,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many different ways to do that. I think that's fun.
Okay.
So I might just give it a little more, I don't know, something a little more zippy, I guess. And I get a little more form on here, some shadow values and things on here. If I'm going to marker render it, I'm going to marker render it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
And by the way, you can just get a couple of warm and gray or warm and cool gray markers. And this is a warmer thing. Just take a gray marker and go right over it and get your shadow value. Just, you know, don't go cool marker over warm stuff and don't go warm marker over cool stuff. It just starts to look weird.
Right. Yeah.
But if you have like 2 or 3 grays of warm and cool, you should, you know, you can render stuff out pretty quick. These are fun.
That's weird because I don't think all of my pages are open, but it's okay.
You don't think what?
I don't think all of my pages are open, but it's fine.
I just closed a bunch of them. Ooh. Yeah. What do you think?
I think I could have done better, but I do like how it turned out.
I think birds are a really good subject matter because their shapes are really clear.
Yeah, they were so fun to draw.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Where were the horses at? I forgot. You told me.
I went to Laguna Lake, and there's this one house that they have a couple of miniature ponies, and they have a clear gate, so I was able to see them. So I just drew them.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thank you.
I like this too. I like it just kind of dark and then it sort of fades into here. Are their legs straight like that? I can't remember. Yeah, they are, huh?
I think so. They kind of like tilt towards each other, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
They
because
do have weird legs.
most birds, you know, they have a body here and then the head, and then they're, you know, they come back like that and then forward.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, I don't think ducks do, right?
I know, I think they do. I think it's just like that the bend in their leg is hidden in their feathers or something
Oh,
like that.
okay. That could be.
Yeah, I don't really know.
That's a fun shape. That's a fun shape. Fun shape. What are you using? Color erase?
Yes.
It's a fun pencil, huh?
Yeah, they are. I like them a lot better than just regular pencil because they don't smudge on your hands everywhere.
That's true. But then I like to smudge things sometimes. But
That's true.
I mean, it just depends on what you like. It doesn't matter. I'm going to try and do a graphite powder thing this week. And I'm probably just going to do a demo of it because I'm going to do that and then take that into a painting and then take it into a digital, you know, and go through all three processes.
Okay.
Because I was talking about, I want to talk a little bit about that in here. This right here is a nice balanced drawing. Yeah.
Thank you.
This right here is a really nice balanced drawing. This is great right here. What was she doing?
I think she was just like leaning over. She had her arms crossed, I believe. I don't really remember.
There's something interesting about that whole, the way she's looking up. It looks very serious. I have no idea what it was. It doesn't matter, but. And then these are these earlier ducks?
Yes. I numbered them, the pages in order. So.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Don't get too uniform with these lines here.
Okay.
This is nice and loose. Man, some of you guys are really getting the loose thing, which is really the hardest thing to convey. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And again, take the same approach, even if you, because you might want to go, you know, and do, I don't know, tighter line style or something. That's fine, but start here, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because then your tighter line style is not going to get all stiff. Like it drives me, that stuff drives me crazy. And I know that a lot of it's just experience with people. It's not that they're doing a bad job. It just takes a while, you know. But you
Yes.
guys seem to be accelerating it. A lot of people in here. And again, this is really great. Like this, how much interaction you're doing with people is, I think it's really important. And again, it comes back down to the character thing. You know, don't think formulaically, right?
Yes.
And again, there's certain things in character design classes and things like that, that they're using as an exercise, you know, to sort of talk about something. But what I just really feel like when you're, as a designer, you need to have a personal point of view.
Yeah.
And I think if you're just going at it from a bunch of formulaic thinking, and it's just inherent in entertainment design, because it's just been, I'd argue there's a lot of people coming into entertainment design who really aren't artists. They just like video games and they like pop culture, right?
Yeah.
Where I really feel like you guys fall in love with drawing, fall in love with design, fall in love with all the art part of it. You know, because if you're not in love with that, what are you doing? Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes perfect sense.
And then this duck here all of a sudden gets really pretty balanced. Give me just here. Just give me. You know, it could just be that.
Okay, got it.
Whenever somebody's sitting or like they got their hand on the armrest, just give me enough to know, okay, they're sitting on something.
Okay, got it.
So they're not sort of
They can
floating
float.
in space.
Yeah.
And again, that can be the last thing because the chair ain't going anywhere. I can always put the chair in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is great. I love these like real simple, like that simple breakdown, this line of action here. Here, I might have put a little something down here to ground this duck.
Okay.
You know, I always do that. I want to get something. I want to get things grounded a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a million ways to do it. That's a nice foot right there. Nice. Oh, that's nice. I love this little statement,
Thank
that
you.
little line of action. Yeah.
Hmm.
And you're always kind of interacting things a lot, which is really good. Did you have any trouble with that in the beginning? Like, placing people in relation to each other?
I think so. Yes, probably.
I think that's tricky.
Yeah, it definitely, I had to work at it.
And we probably already talked about this, and you probably already figured this all out. But when I'm doing this, I get this person sort of, okay, she's there, and then I go, it's just like the ear, the back of the head, and all that. Then where does this one start? Oh, she's about there, and I can block that in.
Yeah.
And he's about here, and I just get everybody placed. Where's the table? Because sometimes I'll do that, and I'll go, okay, that looks pretty good. And then I put the table, and I go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Like, wait a minute, they got to all be, like this. Actually,
Yeah.
relate
Yeah,
to
I've
the
definitely
table,
done that.
right?
Yeah.
There's all these disparate elements, that you got to sort of balance. It's just like we were talking about the guitar thing. It's not just the guitar. It's this hand's on the neck, this hand's relating to the sound hole, and then the whole thing is relating to the torso, and the elbows and everything. 'Cause sometimes I'll draw the hand and playing guitar, then all of a sudden I go, oh my God, if the elbow's way in the hell out here, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then I go, well, I didn't do that right. So I can't get the arm to work correctly because there's something wrong. So in order for me to make this work, that arm has to be really short, which isn't going to work. And then there's some kind of weird balance thing going on, right?
Yeah.
This right here, I love this one. Love this one. Yeah, there's just a bunch of good ones in here.
Thank you.
Okay, so where are you leaning with your cafe to character, or have you not started it yet?
I kind of started it. I think it was page 3 or something like that. I kind of
Here?
and then page 4 then. It's one of, yeah, that one.
This
I was
Fisher
kind
guy?
of playing, yeah, I was kind of playing around with that. but
Is that
I
at
just
Lamaranda
really-
Regional?
No, that was at Laguna Lake again.
Where's Laguna Lake at?
It's in Fullerton.
Oh, okay. I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever been there. Is it cool?
Yes. It's pretty cool. It's kind of like really dry. There's not a lot of plants there, but there's normally a lot of people there, so it's nice to sketch.
All right, so Fisher guy, how are you going to put? You're starting to push him here. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just drawing him. I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah, you just gotta, you're just pushing. Like you're starting to do it here. There's something interesting about the little head in relation to all this girth. So that comes back to that contrast thing again, right?
Yeah.
And also, you can play with this stuff. There's a lot of proppy gear with fishing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's the same thing as like anything else. There's those old school baskety things. You ever seen those?
Yeah.
There's those. There's probably a million things. I'm not a fisherman, but there's the whole hat thing where they have a bunch of lures in the hat.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's an obsession. It's like golf or something, right?
Exactly.
So there's some fun stuff to play with there. And it's weird because I painted a guy, just a quick watercolor painting. I might have talked about this over at the lake, and I was sitting there, and this guy, he kind of looked like this dude. I have a painting of him somewhere. I think it's on my Instagram. So I just did a quick watercolor of him, and he came. I wasn't right by him, but that I could see him, and he was on the shore. He came, put all this stuff out, got all set up, cast his line in the water, and then he started like noticing me, and he's like looking over at me. Looking over at me, and I managed to get him painted in, and then he like packed all his stuff up and he left, like went to a different part of the lake. Like he didn't know what I was doing, and he didn't like it. Very unfriendly guy. I mean, why wouldn't you just go, hey, what are you doing? I mean, he probably thought I was doing something weird. You know what I mean?
It's not every day that you see somebody drawing you, so.
But I think a lot of times they don't relate it to drawing. Like they don't realize that's what you're doing.
Yeah, good
Like
point.
they might think you're sitting there writing something down and you're just some kind of weirdo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've met people like that when I used to take the train all the time. There'd be certain, like there was this guy I'd see him all the time, and it was had something to do with the Bible.
Mhm.
And he had this little box because it would sit next to him because I just like to see what he was doing. And he had, I think it was a cigar box or something. And he would open it up. He'd have the Bible, and then he'd open up this little cigar box and all these bits of paper in there. And then he'd like look at the whatever, read the Bible or whatever. And then you make all these notes on all these bits of paper. Like, I don't know why it wasn't in a notebook or something, but it was always on all these like receipts and stuff.
Okay.
It was very obsessive. You know, and if you talk to him, that's all they talk about, you know?
Yeah. I started to always wear this really wide brimmed hat so that if I'm like peeking at someone, they don't notice that.
Right.
The hat helps.
Yeah, and the better you get at it, the less people even notice.
Yeah.
Because again, you're not doing this. You know, you're looking up, grabbing a bunch of stuff, and then you kind of look over it again. And then I just had somebody. It was just like yesterday or something. We were eating or whatever, and I'm trying to get my joint back, and there was a guy there, and he kept looking at me because he knew I was doing something, and I wasn't drawing him very flattering, so I didn't really want him to come over and go, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he was just totally on to me, so I just started drawing somebody else, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if they know or whatever. And again, if they come over and they go, "Well, what are you doing?" It's like, look, you're just a jumping off point because it's true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pushing and pulling you. I'm doing the same thing you guys are doing right now. Now here, I mean, I kind of like this guy, but I'd probably really define everything, just like we were talking about with Maximus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this leg shape here.
Yeah, I really liked his stocky legs, so I kind of like really pushed at those.
Yeah, I like this here. That's fun. This is starting to get an overall shape language. Now they got really wide here. I like that.
Yeah.
And I like the sock idea. I always tend to overdo the socks, and these are really simple, and they make a nice statement. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you're still figuring it out, yeah?
Yes, definitely.
Watch the perspective on this foot right here. It's starting to feel like a little bit like it's on the other side a little bit.
Yeah, feet aren't really my thing. They're kind of.
I think this one's pretty good. I think this one's not bad. This one's not bad at all. This one doesn't look bad.
Okay.
You know, but if it's turning up towards me, I might be able to take advantage maybe of that sole a little more.
Okay.
And then maybe a little.
Yeah, I probably should have shortened it a little bit as well. It's kind of long.
That's probably true.
Like if it's coming at you, I imagine it'd be a bit like foreshortened.
Oops, I screwed it up. Yeah, I still haven't got it. Yeah, there's like the heel again. There's that heel, you know, and then there's this mass in front of it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And again, you know, you're stylizing. Sometimes you really simplify it, and that's fine too. But it's just got to be believable.
Okay.
I mean, as long you can push things as far as you want, as long as they're believable.
Got it.
Man, I want to go on a sketch trip. I wonder if we could go on a field trip yet.
I would definitely go if you do one.
How many people are vaccinated in here? A lot?
I am vaccinated.
I got my first job.
I'm gonna see if I can. You know what I mean? And remember,
we could all show up at the same place.
I know that's an old move I used to use for when I wanted to go on a spontaneous field trip. I don't do it anymore. And I go, all right, I'm cutting class or I don't know, it might have been 11 in the morning. I'm cutting class off early. I'm going to go down and sketch it, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not saying you have to be there. You know, I do that.
Mhm.
But then I felt like, if something goes wrong, it's probably a bad idea. So I'll find out. All right. Who else? Anybody else have questions for me?
I have a question. When would you be doing your plein air summer class?
Let me look at that. I don't know yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of put it out there and make it known. I'll do
Okay,
that this week for sure. Maybe tomorrow. And then I'll figure out, well, our last day is the 22nd. And then maybe it'd have to be on a Friday because I'm supposed to do a Photoshop class during the summer.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's assuming it fills. So I probably want to start it somewhere around when that starts. Yeah.
Okay. Wait, you want to start when summer school starts? Summer semester?
Probably around there.
Okay, got it.
Is that good?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing this summer.
Yeah. And you know, again, the thing I like about workshops is they're loose.
Yeah.
They're I think they're fun because there's no structure. You know, I don't have to grade anybody. I don't have to, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have to be a hard ass about any of that stuff. Hang on a sec. Speaking of that, I need to take another screen grab. Nobody else has questions for me?
Do we have any sort of like, do we know anything about like the fall semester and like what's going to be the schedule?
Yeah. I could, I'm not supposed to do that, but I mean, I don't care.
I guess more so around when's the time that it's going to be dropped, I guess.
Oh, actually, I don't know that. I can find that. I can find that out.
Okay.
But I mean, I can find out. I'm sure there's a document. Actually, I have a document with all the classes on it. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at digital drawing.
Oh, okay. 107?
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to teach that. I'm kind of over it.
Yeah. Funny story. I took your class for like the first 2 weeks, and then I was like, I'm not taking this.
Why is that?
Sorry.
Why was that?
I was in a different place mentally, I think.
Oh, I get it.
You know?
I think I think it can be a really good class. There's something weird about that class where you just get a lot of people that don't feel like they're very serious about it.
I think for me that's what it was, and I realized it, and I was like, I'm not ready to like I'm not being serious enough. So
yeah, it's weird. It's another one of those classes where people are putting the cart before the horse again, where it's like, okay, this isn't a drawing class, it's a digital drawing class. And now it's turning into a drawing class because nobody here knows how to draw at all.
Yeah.
And then I'm going, let's do a 2-point perspective thing so I can show you the perspective grid, because that's the only reason I do it. I'm not doing it to show you really environmental stuff. Phil teaches a good environmental class and it's fine. All I'm doing is to show you, I'm showing you the perspective grid tool in there. That's why I'm doing it. And then we end up spending a month on it because nobody knows how to draw anything, you know, that kind of thing. Right. And then and I stop this, but everybody always does. I go, okay, what's the city view going to be or whatever? Oh, it's going to be a zombie post-apocalyptic run. God, here we go.
It's going to be a floating zombie.
Yeah, it's going to be a floating city. And I'm like, okay, you don't even know how to draw a city. And now you're going to go into this big, fantastic idea. Come on. You know what I mean? And again, get your own damn point of view, right?
Yeah.
Stop with the cliches, man. It's just like when I think it was Joyce's stuff. I'm looking at that shape language. I go, I haven't seen the shape language a million times. That's interesting to me. You know what I mean? I mean, it's hard. I get it. It's hard to be original. If you go, I don't care what you do, man. If you throw it out onto the internet, you go, oh my God, there's 4,000 people doing this. You know what I mean? But I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. You know what I mean? You know, you got to just follow you. And again, I'll go to this guy. I think he's just a good example of this. You know, and the thing I like about this guy is he's a great drafts person, and he's really a great designer. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, it's all entertainment stuff, but man, it's just really well done.
Yeah.
And it looks real fluid. It looks fun. Like it looks like he has
Mhm.
fun doing this,
Yeah.
which I think is important. These are super fun. You should look at these kind of things. Like his character stuff is super fun. And again, it doesn't look like everybody else's.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but what's fun to look at for this, like how far he's pushing this stuff, how designed these things are, what he did with his mouth right here and then straight down into the neck. Like all these things are, he didn't invent any of these things. I mean, don't draw it like him, but it can inspire shape language, right?
Right.
Look at this guy. It's funny, man. And then look at the hand. That's cool, man. You didn't just do some, you know, it's just, that makes sense. This is fun. I mean, all this stuff is great. Fun. This guy probably works constantly, I'll bet you. Does these really fun things with the hands. There's that big pad right there that you can exaggerate. I think we talked about that a while back. You know, it gives it a fingery look, just exaggerating the pad on there. And same thing with the thumb. Here it is again.
Yeah.
This is a real common thing. And why is that a common thing? That pose with the hand.
It's relaxed. I don't know.
It's very easy to put this shape, which is just a simple graphic shape, in front of these shapes and get an instant, interesting hand pose. It's very easy. Does that make sense? And I always think of it as two shapes. There's this shape in the foreground, then I can silhouette this stuff back here a little bit. He didn't do it there, but I can do that. And it gives a sense of anatomy, of expression, and it's very simple. You see that pose all the time because it's just simple and it works.
I draw that pose and I didn't even realize.
Yeah. I do it because it works. It's effective.
Yeah.
I mean, these are awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah, these are cool. I'm looking at them too.
Man, I love drawing the mariachi dudes down on either Mariachi Plaza or Alvera Street. But they get, it's weird. Sometimes they get kind of snotty. Like I was filming down there one time, I was videoing, and I don't know what's going on down there. There's a lot of weirdness going on down there around. I was using my, my Canon, and I don't know if I said this. I had a security guard come over and she goes, "You can't do that." And I go, "So it looks like I'm just taking a picture with a camera, right?" And I go, "What do you mean I can't do that?" She goes, "Well, you got to go get a permit if you're gonna do that." And I go, "What are you talking about?" I go, "This is a tourist area." I go, "Everybody's taking pictures here." I go, "You telling me that guy over there taking a picture with his camera phone can't do that?" "Yeah, you can't do that." And I go, "You're out of your mind." You know what I mean? I go, "You are absolutely out of your mind." I go, "You know what? You want to go call the cops? Go call the cops. I don't care. Go do whatever you want. I'm doing what I want." And it was weird. And then that same day, I was just shooting the mariachis and stuff. And the mariachi guy came up to me and started doing a full-on Sinatra, like putting his hand in front of my camera and stuff.
Oh.
I'm like, "What do you guys think you are? Like celebrities or something? What's the matter with you?"
Yeah, that's
But
weird.
I think they want to get paid for everything.
Yeah.
If I draw them, it's not such a big deal because I don't really know what I'm doing. But I like to go down and capture pictures down there. There's a guy that used to be down there, and I wish I'd drawn this guy. He was really interesting. He was a blind guy. He'd sit on the ground and he played accordion.
Oh.
So I could sit right in front of him. I think I drew him, but I have no idea where the drawings are. But you could sit right in front of him and draw him, and he didn't know you were drawing him. And it was just he was an interesting guy. And it was just like, he played one of those big accordions. It wasn't a concertina or whatever. It was like the bigger accordion thing. Really interesting,
Yeah.
But the reason I said that is because like this guy, that feels like, he either was working from reference or maybe he went somewhere like that, Alvera Street or someplace. Because this guy feels kind of real. And then it goes into the shape language of here. Right?
Right, right,
So
right.
look at all these things. It's very similar to what we're doing. These aren't really, I mean, I know they're pushed, but like his body type is pushed, but it's totally based on reality, right?
Yeah.
Like almost all of these. This one, look at this one. There's a triangle right there. You see that triangle? Then there's kind of another one here, and then he pushes that. There's that hip structure we talked about relating to the torso, right? And then these are all very thin. This is great. Man, these are probably fun to work on.
Yeah.
Look at this pose. Or this one. Look at that curve. That leg thrown out.
Did he work on Coco?
Yeah.
Okay.
He probably works on everything. Look at this one. What's really fun about this kind of stuff is you're going, okay, I don't feel like I've seen this 10,000 times like this one, you know, or this one. I mean, that's a super weird design, but it's cool. Or this even.
Yeah.
And look at the simplicity, man. This is exactly what we're doing here. By the way, Mariachi Plaza, man. Yeah.
This place to be.
It's just, and by the way, the train goes, there's a substation there. So the train goes right underneath it. You come right up in Mariachi Plaza.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, it's a trip. Anyway, on and on. Look at these. Okay, so let's look real quick here. Let's find. You give me a page. I just want one that's a little more fleshed out. You give me a page like this kind of stuff, I'm in. Right?
So that's, you're looking for that, like,
Yeah,
pretty
I'm looking
rough,
for
but still
more.
defined.
I'm looking for, you know, this would be great for the expressions or whatever. This, fine. Yeah. This is probably a little too rough. Although I think it's awesome. Look at that. Megan.
Oh, that looks so cool.
Yeah, doesn't it? You know, you could do, well.
I
Yeah.
love the shape of the muzzle. It's like so odd, but interesting at the same
Well,
time.
he's basing it off the skull, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's just like it's you don't see that. Don't see that shape often. It's really cool.
Look at that. That's great. I'm trying to find one that I, you know, again, this would be fine for expression, this level. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find one that sort of defines the whole character. This is cool. I didn't know he had this much stuff in here. That's almost there. Look at these little breakdowns. Yeah. By the way, when we talked about doing that a while back, when we talked about doing the simple shape breakdowns, this is where it relates back. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you start to get some interesting shape language, and then you go, okay, now I got to learn how to move it around a little bit. Do that with the little breakdowns. Well, that's what he's doing here, right? This is totally acceptable finish. Oh, those are cool. That's cool. This guy's badass. Okay, he pitched that shoulder back a little bit. Look at that. Look at that reaction right there. Yeah. And again, that's what we're talking about when I was talking about Megan stuff or Haley or whoever, when they're doing this interaction thing, here it is, right? Like that is really a nice little pose right there. Look at the simplicity of the feet.
Oh, yeah.
This is a completely finished. This would be an acceptable level of finish. This would totally be an acceptable level of finish, probably. Might go just a hair further. This, man, give me that. Yeah.
Mhm,
Give me
mhm.
that, man. Like that. You give me that. That's finished, man. This is finished right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason I'm doing that is that I know in other classes you'll be asked to do things very clean, tight line. So I don't have to cover that. Phil usually covers that in his stuff. And that's good. But what I want you guys to understand, that's not always the best way to present your work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you don't really need to. And I don't know, there's something about, and there's a place for that. That's why Phil's doing that, because there is a time where you do that.
Sure.
But if I'm having discussions and things like that, I don't want everything all cleaned up like that. It actually starts to look, especially when you're kind of discussing things and everything, it starts to take all the life out of everything. And if it's not done correctly, it can look really amateurish. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
like a weird thing that you're trying to make it look finished and professional. And if you don't do it correctly, it actually does the opposite. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is finished level. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want you guys to understand that, concept, right? Like, how do I do, it's still, it's very defined. It's very clear, but it's, it's loose, it's rough, and it's got vitality to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot in here. You guys should go check this dude out. I'll link it. I mean, I didn't know he had so much character stuff in here. Look how loose that is. That's how you work out a pose, man. Oh, look at that. That's great. I got to go over to Mariachi Plaza. This makes me want to go over to Mariachi Plaza. I don't want to go for a while anyway. God, there's just tons of this stuff in here. That's finished. These could be finished for expression. Okay, does that clarify? Because somebody was asking about it. What level of finish I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
At least for me.
Well, you're speaking for your whole generation.
I guess.
Not just the class, your whole generation. All right, who else? Anybody have anything for me?
Sure, Mike, if you want to look at mine.
Sure. Yeah, these look great. Yeah, I love this one right here. Yeah?
Yeah.
Love this. These are great, man. Me likey. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. These are great. That's fun. Is this part of the beard brigade, the beard in the Civil War mustache brigade?
I don't know, just a bunch of people with beards.
I love this. That's fun. That's fun. Oh, here we go. God, that's a good page, man. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a good page, dude.
That's Trucker Jesus.
Ah, that's a good page. Yeah?
Yeah.
Love that. Like when if you're putting together your portfolio or something, man, get these kind of, is this on white paper?
Nah, it's on tone paper, but I can
Okay,
always
that's-
just draw it over.
Have some of this stuff in there, man. Like sketches turn people on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it shows like, yeah, man, I can draw, man. I can emote, I can draw, I can do this loose, cool thing. Because I always, and I might have said this in here, I didn't like it when I looked at portfolios and everything was slick and finished. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how long it took him to do that. Because then I look at it and go, did you take 2 years to make this portfolio? Where's your process? I want to see that you can actually throw down drawings, that you can come up, what your process is. And this shows me all that. It shows me that you can, do fun things, expressive things, character-y things, stylization, and throw it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really like this page. That's great, man. And I love this too. This is exactly what we're talking about. I got this cheek and then I got that dark mass on the other side of the face, right? This is great. I mean, these are great, man. I love that. I love that you tilted it up like that. So where are you leaning now?
I'm not sure. I was just taking some of the other drawings that I had before and like going more with them, you know?
Okay, and this too. Oh, like this, if you give me a, you know, or like here, like any of these expressions, you could just pop out and put on. These are finished.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And what I like about these is, man, these feel finished, but they're sketchy. But I don't need these polished any more than this. This is it. Like if you showed me this, is like I get it. You know what I mean? And that's really important. Now, the only thing I might do, it depends on how you shot them. I don't know. I might take them into Photoshop and level them up a little bit.
Okay.
That's it. And then when you're laying these things out in a portfolio or whatever, make sure that you're laying out these pages, you know, your process, you know, like that kind of thing. I've never met anybody in the context of a job or something that you can show them this polished thing and this polished thing. When they see that page, that's where they get all turned on, right?
Yeah.
And same thing for me, man. This is fun. And these are great. I mean, I don't really have, these are really great. They're loose. They're fun. I mean, they're fun, you know? You watch and see how much, you probably already do, how much play you get from these kind of sketches, yeah?
Yeah, definitely trying things and not like set in my way, I guess. I'm just trying different
That's
things.
why these are working. Because you know what these look like? They look like you're having fun. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, these are really fun.
And man, do I like seeing that? It's the exact opposite of like when I see these sketchbooks, like this magazine called Imagine FX or something like this, really overpriced magazine. And they always have these, they go, all these artist sketchbooks, you know, all these illustrators or whatever. And the magazine's like $25. I mean, it's ridiculous. But a lot of them are sort of fantasy people and all this kind of stuff. And everything is sort of dark and doomy and, or it's just, you know, fairies and stuff. And just look at it and I go, I don't care about any of this stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing personal about it. It's like, okay, I've seen this stuff 10,000 times. When I see a sketchbook like this and or you know, or a bunch of them I've looked at in here where it looks like you're having fun, that speaks volumes to me, man. It's like, I want you on my team, man. Like you have a sense of humor. You know, you look like you love drawing. I can go, hey man, let's go sketch at lunch, you know, with 3 or 4 people and you're going to be in, you know, I want those people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's what these look like to me. It's like, okay, you're going to be fun to work with. Is this the first page?
Yeah, that one's the first page.
This is fun. And there's so many fun shapes in here. This, I love this like sense of anatomy in this thing, way you push that head down. I love that. I mean, there's just some, where are these at?
It is Orange, O Town.
I got to go over there this week.
We're just sitting at Earth.
This gets me all fired up to draw. This is the kind of thing gets me all fired up to draw. You know what I mean? Or any of the ones I've looked at today that are fun and all that. It just makes me go, God, I just got to get out and draw, you know?
Yeah.
And you're really playing with shapes like this kind of contrast. He's nailing it, man. Love that. Love this. Yeah, I mean, I think they're great. I don't have much to say about it.
All right. Okay.
Just go, keep going.
Yeah.
I can't tell where the level of contrast is on them because, you know, I don't know if that's a photo or whatever. But I mean, even that, I don't know if I really care about.
I'll definitely do one on like more contrasty. Like these are, yeah, for like the final or whatever.
There's another good one. I really love this expression right here. So was this somebody you saw and then you sort of went, you know, and sort of started making up expressions?
Yeah. Basically.
By the way, this right here would be pretty much finished.
I was thinking like evil businesswoman.
I
That's-
like this. There's something about that that's a really interesting. I mean, all of them are interesting, but there's something about that. It looks like you're really starting to nail her right here and here. And what I like too is these feel like the same person. There's a real interesting thing here with the mouth here and here that you really sort of defined here. And you know, these are the same person, right?
yeah.
And that's tricky. A lot of times, you know, as soon as they go and do an expression, it's like that's a different character. You know what I mean? And you're moving them around and you're doing these, and these are very different expressions. And you're moving them around. And I know that's all the same person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, who else? Anybody?
Well, if you could look at mine.
Aaron.
Can we take a lunch break?
Yeah, you want to take a lunch break?
Yeah.
Let's just take a half hour. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I'll come back and I'll look at Aaron's. Okay, so let's come back at 1:30. Yeah.
Yes.
Mike.
Yeah.
I think I have to leave at 1:30.
Why is that?
My mom set up this appointment thing for me.
Well, if it's an appointment, like a doctor's thing.
No, it's like a nail appointment, and I'm upset she said it for that time.
No appointments aren't important. Who am I talking to?
Haley.
Oh, Haley. Yeah, go ahead. That's fine. You're a good student. I don't care.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, 1:30. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Better than last week. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting there. Half of it was just exploring more what I was doing before, you know, going more towards like the older guys that are usually that just hang out at restaurants,
Oh yeah, I remember.
stores. But the other side was also exploring, you know, what exploring environmental elements as well. Like, would they be inside or outside?
This is a pretty good one right here.
Yeah.
This one's pretty good. This guy's looking a little cross-eyed. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so if I'm going to do like an environmental thing, especially with this kind of subject matter, you know, if we're pushing it,
Yeah.
I'm going to start giving this stuff a little bit of flavor, a little bit,
Okay.
which is
Like, I was just looking into like all those kind of Americana restaurants like Norms or
yeah.
all these pies.
Usually I'll make a bigger statement on the furniture or whatever. Now, sometimes that's too chunky up top, but sometimes like I might change it to more of a, you know, maybe I'll change a round table, or maybe it is a round table and it has this, but maybe I'll start giving it a little more of a Parisian vibe, you know, or something.
Yeah.
Make it a little more decorative. Maybe chunk it up a little depending on what it is. You know, and then I go, well, maybe it's not here, but I'll put a bottle of wine here.
Okay.
And you know, it depends on what I'm trying to convey. But I do
Yeah.
this all the time, just when I'm just drawing people in general. I'll add, you might be sitting there drinking a Coke and I'll put wine in a wine bottle and a bouquet of flowers, and you know,
Yeah.
just to have some fun with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was thinking either going that way or one thing I find is, you know, they're all those types of people, they're always hanging out at these little weird family-owned donut shops that you can find everywhere.
Yeah.
But
You'll find them at all sorts of places. And then I also might put a little bit of a shine on here
okay.
and maybe reflect this in just a hair, maybe.
Okay.
Put some
Yeah.
wine in here. You know, if I put, I don't know, if I put a bouquet of roses sitting here still in the bag or something, you know,
Yeah.
the little bag you get, you know, that starts to say something too, right? And then instead of maybe doing this chair, I mean, if I was doing this,
Yeah.
if I was, and then, you know, I'm going to give that its a little bit of whatever. Then I might switch the chair now and go, well, it's going to be a little more of that same idea. You know, whatever this is going to be. I don't like that curve. And then here, I could probably get a little more of that decorative idea into here somewhere. Maybe it's got it. You know, but I mean, if I'm looking at it, I'd have to be there, but I might, you know, just play. If, you know, if I'm doing a diner thing, I'm not going to do this, but
Yeah.
if I'm, you know, the diner thing, you know, the things that pop into my mind are the old school, these sort of coffee pots.
Yeah.
And then the thing that they sit in, which are, I still see, they're those old school restaurant coffee makers.
Yeah. Totally.
You know, I can get some of that. It's like, wait, I think I have a drawing. Hang on. Oh, shit, what did I do with it? Sometimes I really stylize the hell out of it. These stupid drawings all over the place. How can I not find this? I had one. Maybe I don't. I know it's on toned paper. Jesus, man. Oh well. I don't know where it is. I thought I just brought it out recently, but I guess not. Super annoying. I have one of some dudes in a diner, and there's all that. They're sitting at the counter, and there's all that stuff beyond them. Beyond the counter, there's the coffee makers and just all that diner stuff, right?
Yeah. Right.
You know what else is good for that kind of stuff is Felipe's, man. The women still have those old uniforms. With
Yeah.
the little hats. And they got the big long tables. It's very much kind of stuck in time.
Right. Right.
Now, again, here, make a definite decision about that mustache, right? How does it end? How does this work? Because some of these guys, they have these really douchey, like long beards or goatee things. You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
So I always got to make a decision on how I'm going to handle that. Might pull that just a little bit there. Be careful if this, and I don't have a problem with angling these. It's fine. Just make sure that they both are sort of lining up the same way.
Yeah.
And again, when, you know, a lot of times people put in glasses and they sort of leave them here. To me, that's a starting point. They usually pull in a little bit. They might have that little thing like on Wayfarers or whatever those are called.
Yeah.
When these pull in, and then it might get a little thicker there towards the center and a little thicker on top. Maybe it's thinner on the bottom. It has the nose bridge. How does this work? Does it come do that? You know, is it straight? Sometimes I'll even show that sticking out behind the ear if I see it.
Yeah.
Right? So in here, get in here and make a decision about, you know, how am I handling this beard and all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, on the case of those guys, they were really short and kind of neat and trimmed.
That's fine. Just give it a little bit of texture. Just give it a point of view, a design point of view. You know, and then if I look at this and this, and I'm starting to go, well, that face shape is sort of that, sort of, right?
Yeah.
And I go, okay, now pulling off that eye shape. Because now you've given me a little bit, he's got a small nose. And then maybe that beard just comes down like that, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll drop his ears a little bit. Maybe there's a little more of that double chin there. And I go, okay, is he a truck driver? And then from there, I can go. Can I push it further? Because now I'm still going for this sort of bottle-shaped head kind of thing, right?
Right.
You know, and sort of stylize it more. Maybe he's holding a beer. This hand is scratching his behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, we're sort of taking that head shape and sort of taking it into the body shape a little bit. So this is sort of one unit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, you know, this goes to this, goes to this, goes to this. You know, we just start figuring it out. Yeah. But the reason here is I'm seeing this very definite face shape, sort of like that.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Right.
So if I see that, then I go, okay, what am I going to do? Can I make a bigger statement with the beard? You know, what happens if I turn them sideways? Maybe sort of that happens a little bit. Maybe, oop, I don't like that. Hang on. You know, and I'm just going to go all over the place until I either exhaust it or I start finding a point of view. Now I'm going to put his head a little lower.
How will you know if you've exhausted it?
I just start petering out, just starts petering out.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I either go, hey, I'm kind of like this, and then I might at some point leave it alone. You know, am I going to give this guy shoulders? I don't know why I'm on a clipboard kick today. Yeah, it'll just start feeling like I'm running out of ideas, I guess.
Sure.
And also, I like if I have time, which is why I always tell you guys to get started early. If I have time, I want to have time to come back to it later and see it with fresh eyes again.
Okay. Yeah.
And sometimes with the fresh eyes I come back with, I go, wow, that really sucks. Or sometimes I go, I thought that sucked, but it's kind of cool. You know?
Yeah.
Or I kind of like that, but it's getting a little too whatever, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's got a pretty good starting point. Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy go right to sorry. Let's see. You know, overalls. Does that make sense?
Yes. Totally.
And then there's usually a pocket right here like that. So I go, maybe he's got a pin in here. You know, if I started breaking him down, I might pull that neck right together there. Maybe he's a little older. And then my overalls idea. I like this weak chin thing here. My guy's a little younger. Give him a beer. And this undershirt, I'll do a plaid pattern on. Maybe he's got gloves on. Whatever, right? But, you know, so, you know, going from that bigger area up here, very tiny chin sort of pulled back, weak chin, then I can drag that right. If he's an older guy, I can drag that right into the neck shape.
Right.
And I start going to mechanic, I start going to farmer, I start going to all these different things. And then these have that little thing right there, that little, whatever that's called, buckle kind of thing.
Kind of fastens on the button.
Yeah, it has this little thing, it does this. Yeah. Does that.
Yeah.
I keep a pair of overalls in my car for painting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And a pair of coveralls. If it's colder, I'll wear coveralls. If it's warmer, I'll wear overalls. Either way, I end up looking like a hillbilly. Okay, does that all make sense?
Yes, it does.
As far as pushing. But it looks like you're getting a little more structured with the anatomy and all that. Yeah?
Yeah. But yeah. It's like now I'm trying to figure out where to go for this next week. Just keep exploring and pushing, or
watch your perspective here.
Yeah.
Because this is all kind of coming from somewhere. Right?
Yeah. It was all kind of strange. Like that building, like parts of it came out, and yeah, it was just kind of drawn.
Like I don't want to, I'm trying to avoid doing like straight up any kind of grids or anything.
Right.
But the way I might set this up is, I'm just gonna make another piece of paper here. I've got this idea here and this. And then these are going to, these tables are going to follow the same idea. So I might just kind of get those lined up a little bit. And then I know I can pull them out and sort of be in somewhere where I should be.
Right.
If they come out here, then they're still going off somewhere over there. Right?
Right.
So, again, and I see there's like a little dip here. So I might go, okay, there's that little dip. And I can usually eyeball it, and get it pretty right.
Right.
But, you might want to think of the big whole thing. These are all following sort of the same perspective lines, unless one of them is turned or something. And just make sure they're lining up. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit, we're already at 2:00. All right. Does anybody else have questions?
I have a question about all those talent ed things in Canvas. Are those just
I should have taken them out. They should be gone now.
okay? Got it. So they're
Ignore
optional?
those. Ignore those. Okay. What I would like you guys to do, though, I don't know if I talked about it here. I wouldn't mind you guys going to the website and taking a look at it, though. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So everything.
What
in
it
there
is.
optional.
Go ahead.
They're all just optional, correct?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, got it.
I'm on this committee or something where and I think I missed a meeting yesterday, but where we're kind of evaluating this thing and figuring out, ways to improve it and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's a good idea. You go to the industry map on it, and then you can do overlays of clusters of industry, and you'll be picking, digital arts or whatever it's called. And it gives you clusters of the industry, which is probably going to land in Burbank, Glendale, all out there. But what's interesting about it is then you can do an overlay of like rent costs. You can do an overlay, I think, of transportation. And what I like about it is it started in other classes that we've talked about it. It starts a lot of conversation around the logistics of starting a career. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Because they go, and I don't know how they don't know this, but they go, well, most of it's out in Burbank or Glendale or wherever it is. And I go, yeah. I go, Disney's out there. I mean, everybody's out there. And then they go, well, that's far or whatever. I'm just going, what are you talking about? Like, if you start a career, you move, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Or you commute. I mean, that's up to you. But then it starts that conversation of Because then they go, well, I don't want to do that. Number one, when I hear that kind of stuff, I start going, well, I don't think you're all that serious about a career. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so then they're looking at the rents, let's say in Burbank. And the rents in Burbank right now are probably insane. They're insane everywhere, actually, but especially in Burbank, Glendale, they're going to be expensive, right? So then you go, okay, so let's go to, I don't know, 7 miles out radius. Okay. And where did the rent start dropping off? Like if I was doing that, I was a young person, I'd be going, where do the rents drop off? And where is it a hip neighborhood that isn't on everybody's radar yet? Maybe it's not quite there yet or whatever, but it's cool. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the rents drop down there. And then you go, okay, now let's go the next route. Okay, that little area, the rents aren't too bad. It's not that far from that area. Is there a transportation hub there? And then you go, okay, well, what if I found an apartment there? I could walk to the Metrolink station and take a train right to work. And that'd actually be kind of cool, be kind of nice, right?
Right.
I remember Disney stores, because they used to be on Raymond in Pasadena. They literally had we had a Metro rail station right across the street. Like you could take it right to work, you know? And then if you sort of plan your, where you're living at, or maybe you can ride a bike. I used to ride a bike to the train station. You can ride a bike train station. You just take your bike on the thing. It's awesome. You know what I mean? Because you're getting a bike ride in the morning, you get some exercise, you're waking up. Maybe you have a place on the way to work. I love this about it. Like if you're riding your bike to work, you have a place where you stop, get breakfast, get some coffee or whatever, and sit there and read the paper or whatever you like to do. And then hop on the train. Yeah. Megan?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And what I like about it, and I hadn't thought about it, but it starts a conversation around the logistics of starting a career, like I said. But what's good about that is that oh, it's a button. I think when you start talking about things like that, I think it sort of moves your head a little more towards the idea of professionalism. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think it also starts to make it a little more tangible and a little more real. Like, oh, this is a real thing. Like it can, at least for me, when I was trying to start or whatever, I'm like, I remember there was a lot of times where I was constantly going, am I really doing this? Like, is this really going to happen? Or is this some kind of pipe dream? It seems kind of crazy and all that stuff. So I was always questioning it. And I think when you start putting realities on it, start, it starts moving your brain towards that thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you want to think, and Megan, what are you going to, what's after Fullerton?
I don't really know yet. I was thinking of maybe going to art center, but I want to do a little bit more research before I decide.
And who was it you who was telling me about art center? Or was it Haley?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody was saying that. I think it might have been Haley. Yeah, I think it was Haley. So if we go down there, then probably you should go too.
Okay, got it.
I like to take people as opposed to them just going and getting the art center tour from the people, because it's just, I think it's a little more personal. And I also think I can get in the nooks and crannies and tell you a lot of stuff and show you a lot of things you might not see if you do it that way.
Okay, got it.
I also like, it's a fun place to go anyway. I love going there because I just get inspired, is a lot of times I get this is what I get. Somebody will take, let's say this. Let's do this. They will take this and they will go, here's my final, whatever. Here's the size, tabloid here. And they go, boom.
So basically a lazy sketch.
No, it's not that the sketch, it's not the sketch. It's that all this, it's just cut out and pasted on. I don't like that. I like this to be clean. So I want it to look like it was drawn on the same page. But, and this one's doesn't have quite enough value yet, but let's see if I can. you know, and then I'd have to, this is a little too big a leap in value, but you know, I'd have to come in here and dial this in. So then it feels, and I'd make sure that this wasn't here. Now, if I took a decent picture to begin with, this is pretty easy to do because there's still that schmutz right there. But, you know, if it was shot, you know, if you just shot a decent picture of it, you can easily level it out. So it feels like it's just sitting on this page. I don't like this schmutz here or here. So I would, you know, make sure I had it started with a better photo. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
So I want clean layout. That's all. Clean presentation. Okay. Again, I think I've said this before, but if people don't do, and I've done this before where people are presenting things and it's just sloppy. And I actually had a guy one time that it looked, his final drawing or whatever was all wrinkled. And I think even creased, and it was like had smudge prints on it. And I go, I'm not critting this thing, man. You don't care about it. I don't care about it either. If you don't care about it, I don't care about it. And I'm not going to sit around and critique a dirty, crinkled up, ridiculous presentation. I'm not going to do that because you're telegraphing you don't care. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know why you'd ask anybody else to care. You know what I mean? Why would I do that? It's like, I'm not going to, and not to mention, it feels ridiculous and absurd to sit there and go, okay, I want to critique this thing like it's not a mess. It's a mess. You know what I mean? Now, the drawing part of it, everybody's working on that. So I'm not going to trash people over that, but I will trash you over presentation. I don't like that. It's got, and it's not just that I don't like it. Nobody likes it. Okay. Everything about your profession, your behavior when you, and it starts now, it started already. Everything about your presentation or your behavior, your presentation, all that now from here on out has got to be professional. I don't care what class you're in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Always give a good presentation, man. Always clean, punchy, you know, interesting, fun, whatever it is. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm going to let you go. We're at 2:30 already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, if you guys need to hit me this week, hit me up. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, you guys. Well, I might go down there. So if I do, I'll put it up under announcements. If you, and again, if you need to hit me this week. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you guys.
Okay.
I'll talk to you if not Friday or before, then Friday or Saturday. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks a lot, you guys. Doing a great job.
Thank you, Mike.
Great job.
See you next week.
I'm happy.